Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, monsters, whatever you identify as. It's all welcome here to the alternative stream. My name is Jaggerus, and always I have beer, which I'm going to fail to open. There we go. And I'm joined on the casting desk by the lovely Spiro. Spiro, how are you feeling about that last video there?
Which last video? The semifinals or the dev stream?
Which of those was a video?
Well, I guess more the dev stream. But the dev stream, I don't know. We got a lot of information, lots of information. So there's a lot to unpack there. I'm sure Quill and Spacey end up doing a good job explaining all of what's about to happen. Personally, for me, I am looking forward to every new drop of content that's going to be coming out. We're getting some content for the next coming month, and obviously after that we can get a lot more cards too. And I must say, I have a sense that Dagon may be returning. We see Foglets.
Dagon.
We see oh god. We see some Foglets weather type of synergies going on there. It looks like they're preparing for Dagon coming back.
Do you remember when you wanted an Alchemist nerf?
Yes, I do, and I still do.
How's that going for you, Spiro?
Well, I'm gonna intentively read the patch notes, and there better be some hidden Alchemist change. Otherwise, I'm gonna be peeper writing very hard. So
a word. I feel like you made that one up. But more importantly, also my biggest take from that was Radea. Radea is looking pretty hot right now with all of these new stratagems. I'm into it. You should be too.
That is true. Those stratagems getting some big changes. I mean, that one with poison actually quite scary. Being able to just instantly poison something without counterplay. Like you could just play that and turn one, poison something, gone, done with, finished. No purifier for your opponent, no way to answer it. It's 0 points in terms of tempo, but the ability to just insta kill something like that seems kind of spooky.
It puts a lot of value on going first, right? If you consider a stratagem at the moment is roughly worth 5 points. I mean, I guess if you have Veil and stuff, it's a little bit more because you can block certain things. But we'll say it's around 5-6 points. With the instant poison, that has potentially quite high reach because you can instantly poison something on a turn. You know, attaching that to like a Fangs of the Empire or a Snake Dude, it's going to be pretty good.
Snake Dude. But yeah, that's some pretty interesting value you can get from these stratagems now. Lots of them got big buffs. So much to talk about, actually. I mean, the monster one, especially Shadow of Urn of Shadows. That one being able to target gold units now, also very, very powerful. I mean, obviously you are on blue coins, so you kind of don't exactly want to be playing golds in round one, but you know, if you could just win round one with that and say, okay, I'm going to play a Maruna and it's going to just win me the round and guarantee round control. Sometimes, as we've seen in Gwent, round control really, really important. And if you can use these strategies to get you that round one, that could make a big impact in the game.
Yep, and you've also got your new neutral Aneromancy stratagem, the one where you can draw any card from your deck, and that makes combo decks much, much happier, because the last thing you want in a combo deck is not to find the cards that you need. So for certain decks, I can see that stratagem just being a core piece, but then you're not guaranteed to go first, so it's not going to always save your day, but it's nice to have that option for these decks that really need certain cards at certain points.
You know, I noticed the combo there, and I'm probably going to talk more about these changes in tomorrow. But one of the combos I did see, something that really piques my interest, is I think it was the Land of 1,000 Fables. You can transform a special card into a faction card of the same provisions, which means in a Cultulus deck, you can use a Neuromancy, tutor out whatever, and then you can transform that Neuromancy, I believe, into another Cultulus. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is maybe how it will end up working, and that is kind of crazy if it does work that way.
Because if you have factions where they only have one option at the high provisions to transform into, it's basically a guaranteed transform. Yep. So if you've got a 30 provision card, like a Neuromancer, it's 13 provisions, I think, and there's only one thing in that faction that you can transform it into, it's going to be pretty spicy. But before we go down this slippery slope and use all of the things we're going to talk about in the Zoinal podcast at some point, let's have a little peek inside the deck lists for Alexander Overcharged. That's how you say his surname, just for the record.
Overcharged. Okay. Well,
yeah, he's
Jaggerus confirmed Polish whisperer. Looking at the deck list, Pajabol being the only person that has not opted to bring Nilfgaard to this tournament. Instead, we do see Scoia'tael here for Pajabol, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pajabol might be the only player that has brought Scoia'tael. as that is going to be the major change in his lineup. This is once again playing line pockets. This one, similar to, I believe, Forever YOLO, does not play Heatwave, which might signal that Pajabol is, of course, trying to be good against Nilfgaard. You do see Nature's Gift, a deck that is very good against Nilfgaard. You see the Araka Swarm with the Curse of Corruption. Doesn't have to worry about that awkward Yurden in the Nilfgaard matchup for Coup de Grace. Does have another match that's good against Nilfgaard, and then this line pockets. Then again, line pockets against Heatwave not being present does mean it's a bit worse against Nilfgaard, but it does have Curse to Purify, which helps out against Nilfgaard.
Yeah, I think looking at this lineup, we can see that Pajabol is in fact naturally gifted, and he's hoping to line his pockets in a blaze of glory here in the Gwent final. Also, Araka Swarm, I couldn't really fit that one in, but we're going to go for it. If that Araka Swarm, that means if Araka Swarm's going to get banned because it's currently ruining my lovely joke.
I mean, Araka Swarm is a kind of deck, or monsters in general actually, is the kind of faction that very often either gets banned or gets kind of targeted in a way. It's got kind of decks that either require very specific answers, and if you don't have the answers, you kind of go, well, I guess I got a ban then. Or if you do have the answers, you go, well, I guess I'm going to make sure you don't get a win with it. And it is very commonly a deck that does tend to eat those bans.
Yeah, I think in the last set, did we see Araka Swarm get banned? In our set, we saw it got banned. I believe, and I think both players maybe banned it the last time. There was times when Monsters was banned.
Skellige got banned, I believe, last time between Tailbot and Forever YOLO. So I'm curious to see if Tailbot's going to do the same ban strategy again, or if he decides to maybe shift it with these decks from Pajabol.
What hasn't really been banned though is line pockets. We talked about Syndicate being a ban magnet. Magnet. There's a joke in there somewhere. But it hasn't really been the target of bans this time. I mean, I think we've probably seen Nilfgaard banned more than line pockets at this point. We've seen Skellige bans, we've seen Araka Swarm bans. The only deck we haven't seen banned so far, I think, is Scoia'tael, Nature's Gift.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen much of Scoia'tael in this tournament so far, so it hasn't had much opportunities to get banned, such as the other decks. But we'll have to see if it does end up getting banned this time around. Although, again, Tailbot does play with a line that is somewhat vulnerable to Skellige, as we did see him using that ban earlier on. Pajabol going to be looking to try get this win through, as this is going to be, I think, the third potential official tournament in a row that Pajabol may be able to win if he does win here. It is the third one in a row he is in the finals. Will it be the third one in a row that he does win? He's got a pretty scary opponent. He's going to go up against Tailbot, who's also no stranger to these high-pressure environments. So it is going to be a battle of the giants here, it seems, in this grand final of Gwent Open number 1.
Yeah, and I think both players currently in the finals, relatively well-known players, relatively high-skilled players. So I think it can be a close matchup, regardless of whether Pajabol has the Nilfgaard deck that Tailbot is targeting. However, when it comes to Tailbot's lineup, you see that he does have some weak links now that Nilfgaard is off the table, right? If you're targeting Nilfgaard and Nilfgaard isn't there, then things like Wholesome Senor suddenly not quite so wholesome anymore. Oh, it rhymes.
And then looking at Tailbot's list, once again, we see this kind of, trying to be good. I mean, I don't think these players are going like completely out of their way to target Nilfgaard, but they definitely are putting in some tech cards. As we see, Tailbot does rock that Horson Senior, which is another tech choice against Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard really just getting absolutely targeted in these tournaments. Not targeted, but at least soft targeted in this tournament, it seems, as Senior here, able to transform the Joachim, and that is a lot of points that I can deny Nilfgaard. If Nilfgaard does lose their first Joachim, that is 3 potential future Joachims that get denied for the price of just 1 card.
But no Joachims to be found in Pajabol's lists. Here's a question for you, Spirit.
That's true.
How do you pronounce Mr. Tobliat's surname?
Kazimierz Zak.
Right, Kazimierz someone in chat who speaks Polish is gonna rate you. I called Pajabol Alexander Overcharged. Maybe it's like Kazimir Chak. Maybe it's like a Chak.
Maybe. I have no idea.
Or he's Zach. Maybe he sucks the cards. He's Kazimir Zak. Let's go with that.
Close.
This lit lineup from I almost got him Damien. I'm doing it's like when Specimen was calling Gravish Colin. Oh, this lineup from Damien though, it kind of suffers a little bit because there's no Nilfgaard. We saw Wholesome Senor not really doing the thing that he's designed to do, because he's there to transform spies, and when your opponent isn't playing Nilfgaard, they ain't gonna be playing no spies. There are no spies to be seen, and as a result of that, it means that this card, you have to find value in other ways, and that doesn't always pay off in the same way as some of the other cards you could put in this list.
I think it's time for me to pull a Jagras and quickly say that this Wholesome Senior in this situation where Pajabol not bringing Nilfgaard, kind of looking a bit like a Papega Senior in the situation, as he does not really have any good matchups when you take the Nilfgaard out of the equation. So I'm not so sure if this is going to be a asset or a liability for Tailbot, but I'm leaning more towards liability as Pajabol opting to not bring Nilfgaard.
Nope. In terms of his Araka Swarm, it has these toll targets, though. And the things like the Erden, the Geralt actually do quite nicely versus Gift, right? Because Nature's Gift, you've got those Dryads, the Hammer Dryads, they're going to be getting pretty toll. So having things like resets, having things like Geralt of Rivia does actually pay dividends against that match.
For sure. And then moving on to Araka Swarm, we do see that triple toll punish with both Geralt and the Heatwave. That is going to also be somewhat awkward against Nilfgaard. But again, no Nilfgaard for Pajabol. However, against the likes of Nature's Gift, these cards also do quite good.
Said that. Are you not listening to me? I feel offended.
I mean, I'm just putting out that this is also not bad against Nilfgaard and Scoia'tael. It's obviously good against Scoia'tael, but even though it's tech cards against Nilfgaard, it's still good against Scoia'tael. That's the point that I'm trying to put across, that this is still going to get value in that sense. So some tech cards like Wholesome Senior, for example, only good against Nilfgaard, but things like Yrden and Geralt and Heatwave good against both Nilfgaard and Nature's Gift. So these tech cards aren't going to hurt Tailbot that much.
No, so when you look at it like that, Araka Swarm, I feel like it does have the tech that it needs. Line Pockets, not so much. And in a mirror, that Line Pockets is really going to struggle. In a mirror with the Araka Swarm, the list is also going to struggle just because, what are you going to hit with Geralt of Rivia? Like, literally, you're not. Geralt of Rivia does doddle in an Araka Swarm mirror because your opponent just doesn't go that tall.
Yeah, in the mirror, it's definitely not going to be good at all, which might actually make Tailbot think about maybe banning Pajabols. I mean, I guess Pajabol also has a card that doesn't really do very well in the mirror. He does have the Curse of Corruption, which also not a great card in the Araka Swarm mirror. So both players do have that awkwardness of the. But then again, Tailbot has the Yrden, and that's really good in the mirror. Seems like the bans for Tailbot ends up going onto the Blaze of Glory from Pajabol. So keeping to that strategy of banning Skellige, and Pajabol going to be banning that Araka Swarm from Tailbot.
Yeah, we talked about the monsters being a ban target for potentially Pajabol, and it turns out that is the case. Tobliat sticking to what he did the last time around and banning Skellige. He just doesn't like Skellige versus his lineup. So, yeah, fairly standard bans. And really, like I said before, lined pockets not really being the ban target in this tournament. And it's interesting to see the way that tournament meta has developed between the top 16, the top 64, and now, especially in terms of ban strategy.
Yeah, the ban strategy definitely interesting to see so much Syndicate not actually getting banned. Syndicate being one of the strongest factions, but this time around, we've seen actually Syndicate kind of dodging a lot of the bans, as Monsters seems to have been soaking up most bans in the tournament. Although, even then, we actually see some Skellige bans. I'm not sure if we've seen any other factions. I don't think we've seen. No, we have seen Nilfgaard getting banned.
Imprisonment got banned yesterday at some point, or maybe it was today. Yeah. Today it was this after. It was Tailbot banned at first.
Yeah, I think Forever Yola was one banning the Nilfgaard, but for the most part, it does seem like Monsters has taken a lot of the bans in this tournament. So Tailbot will no longer be able to play his Monsters in the series, and Pajabol will not be able to play Skellige. So it is going to be a grand final here: Pajabol versus Tailbot, both Polish players. So Team Poland will guarantee win this tournament. Spoiler alert, as we're going to have to see it's going to be Pajabol or Tailbot or Tobliat to take the grand final. Jaggers, who would you say? I know you have your predictions from earlier, but you still going to you look at the lineups after seeing the lineups. You're going to stick with that prediction, or you think it can be changed?
Paya is love. Paya is life. Paya will pie roll his way to victory. Yeah, I think I still want to stick with my prediction. I'm still going to stick with Pajabol. I'm currently winning, by the way, in the caster predictions, and there's no way that anyone can beat me. So get wrecked, rest of the casters. How are you feeling though about these matchups?
I mean, I think Pajabol, I think he has the superior lineup in this matchup because the fact that Pajabol doesn't bring Nilfgaard and Tailbot has teched against Nilfgaard, whereas Pajabol seems to have also brought a lineup to be good against Nilfgaard, but Tailbot does bring Nilfgaard. So in terms of lineup, I have to give the advantage to Pajabol going into the series.
Someone in chat's pointed out that I've gone against Team Glasses, and I do apologize. Sometimes I wear contact lenses, however, so maybe Pajabol has contact lenses, and maybe he is in fact a glasses wearer and can see in 4D. So match number one just starting up, and Casanova Pajabol versus the Source of Power Tobliat. Pajabol on Nature's Gift, Tobliat on Skellige. What's your take?
Pajabol playing Nature's Gift. I mean, I think this matchup is usually favored for Scoia'tael, except for the fact that Tailbot opts to bring both Hjalmar and Morkvarg, and those two cards in this matchup are absolutely huge. The Morkvarg getting so much value onto a tall unit such as a Hamadryad in this deck does somewhat struggle to play around Morkvarg, as at some point or another, something will typically go very tall. And then, of course, Hjalmar being such a great way to answer things like maybe a Defender, maybe a Hamadryad, maybe a Dunker, or maybe even a Gezrus or whatever. Just very, very flexible removal. Going to find massive value in this matchup. So I think this deck, at least the Skellige version from Tailbot, definitely going to be the tech choices come in handy against Pajabol.
Yeah, this is a situation where the tech choices are kind of working out against other factions, specifically Nilfgaard, not Nilfgaard, Scoia'tael. And I guess if you are, Tailbot, Tobliat, when you're building your decks, you're kind of thinking if they don't bring Nilfgaard, what are they going to bring? And the answer is probably Scoia'tael. And if they're going to bring Scoia'tael, it's likely to be Nature's Gift. So it does make sense. Also, just to clarify for some people in the chat, in terms of caster bias, this is a TLG broadcast, and Pajabol does play for TLG. With that said, I would say that I feel like Pajabol not having Nilfgaard does play in his favor, and I think in this tournament, Pajabol has played super clean, whereas we've seen Tobliat make a few missteps here and there. So I would probably predict Pajabol even if he wasn't part of our team.
I mean, Pajabol definitely seems to have the lineup advantage, so he has that going for him as Tailbot's now gonna start off with the on-crate longship. Now, Pajabol has got the poorly in hand. He can move that on-crate longship if he wants to. That longship is, of course, melee locked, so moving to the range being a nice way to deal with it. Or, of course, you can just play Rebuke, be done with it. You want to get that Rebuke in the graveyard anyway at some point for the likes of the Forest Protector. So Pajabol really has a lot of options for now. That he can utilize. We'll see which one he decides to go for. Looks like he's going to go for the poorly, and of course that can also be giving armor to something else. If you do use that order ability, you can give 2 armor to an allied unit next turn. So could maybe use it with maybe something like the Pirate Edition, and that armor preventing it from damaging itself.
Yeah, you would think that Pajabol is playing pretty well in this tournament, and I'd agree, even though we do see him there playing poorly. Sorry, can't help myself. And it's just such a nice tech choice for a bunch of different situations, but this matchup especially, those on-crate longships are so annoying. But where one on-crate longship goes, another shall soon follow. The raiding fleet being utilized there to get yet another longship on the board. How does Pajabol want to shut that down?
Yeah. Pajabol does have the Rebuke available to him, so the question is how much of a threat exactly does he find this on-crate longship? If you look at Pajabol's hand, he has got a couple of specials here, so this on-crate longship isn't going to actually get all that many pings. So you could definitely make a case to keep this Rebuke for something else, something like a Herkia, or maybe even something like a Berserker or whatnot. As Pajabol does agree, he's going to just ignore it, going to use the poorly now to give armor to the Hamadryad, preserving those leader charges, and keeping it at 4 strength with 2 armor, making it impossible for Tailbot to kill right now anyway. So Pajabol holding this Rebuke. I really like this from Pajabol, saying that this on-crate longship really isn't that much of a threat if you're going to be playing with a couple of special cards in this round anyway.
Yeah, sometimes you do want to save your answers for the bigger problems coming up soon. And poor Paulie, he's bleeding there, so he probably is feeling pretty poorly at this point in time. Tobliat, though, he can continue to play into this round. He has a hand that I would say is fairly playable, with the Hunter, with the Raider, with the Berserker, with the Blood Eagle, for example, and just continuing to establish some engines here and try to have some options. But killing Nilfgaard, killing Scoia'tael units in this deck is quite annoying, as we see there the Dryad's Caress Paulie being caressed, getting his cleanse, his vitality, and little Trent bro spawning at his side.
Yeah, that's Paulie actually going to end up getting that purified there, as you mentioned, as Pajabol now getting a also Wandering Trent spawn the board, making this rebuke look a little bit tastier, as Tailbot now going to end up playing the Blood Eagle, killing off that Wandering Trent, denying a little bit of rebuke value potential for Pajabol, as he will end up pulling out a Greatsword. Now, this is a card you may want to start thinking about when it comes to the rebuke, but then again, you don't have the Wandering Trent to get that full death blow value, but looks like for now, Pajabol gonna choose to ignore it. And man, this Figgis hand, this is gonna be a thickums. 9 points already and counting.
Thickest, I guess is what we could call him. Yeah, turns out that Trent was not the mightiest tree in the forest. And is this Pyrotech gonna high roll? That is the question here, right? Because look at the juicy targets that exist.
1 in 5. 1 in 5. I mean, I've seen worse odds, but I also have seen better odds. 1 in 5 is definitely not something that is going to be too likely to happen, but I don't know. Pajabol's a talented lad. Maybe he can pull it off. He's going to go for the rebuke here, killing off that Herc here. For now, I guess maybe not going to click the Pirate Technician, wants to rather wait and try get some armor on with maybe these temperings before clicking on the Pirate Technician, perhaps.
It turns out Pirate Technician, he is a dwarf. He looks like quite a fairly tall dwarf, all things considered, but he is a dwarf. And that does mean that Tempering is going to give him some armor on top of the boost, which means that if he hits himself for some apparent reason, then it's not going to hurt him too much. He's going to hurt the person he hits instead, which is nice, all things considered.
There is 2 temperings, perhaps. You could, in theory, give him 4 armor. That would play a little bit into a Mork Fog. Then again, this Figgis actually, although it's quite nice, getting it nice and boosted, unfortunately for Pajabol, Tailbot plays the Mork Fog in his deck, and this Mork Fog will be excellent at actually shutting down this Figgis, at least getting it to a more removable state, as this Figgis boost is actually going to go a little bit too much for Pajabol's liking. And now we're going to see down comes that tempering. Pajabol going to click the Pirate Tech. It does end up hitting the on-crate longship, so only going to do 3 damage there. Not really getting the best target, but not the worst either, as Pajabol now going to be thinking how much exactly does he want to contest this round, because Tailbot just keeping reach. He's just staying within that reach, playing the reach
no,
game
that was
for now.
the worst target. Like you said,
I think the Greatsword. I think the Greatsword's the worst target because.
Well, I don't know, because if you hit the Greatsword, you can always kill it with the Dunker. You know, if you expect Mork Fog to kill your Figgis anyway, then you have the option there of disabling the Greatsword. So I would say that was the worst target.
Yeah, you could also do that, perhaps. Could see it as we now see Pajabol going to invest the leader charge on that Hammer Dryad, and now going to ask Tailbot, how much do you really want this round? Tailbot's reach now. He's playing the reach game, but does he actually have that reach? There is a lot of points of reach he's got to threaten.
I'm going to say he doesn't have the reach. I don't know, maybe.
So what does he got?
I don't do maths.
I can do a bit of math here. So what is that? 9 plus another 8 plus 2, so that's 10, 19. 19 plus 1 is 22, 23 points. I think he can do. Just not enough.
Yeah, I said not enough. I'm going to put that one out there.
It depends. Is he going to play Mork Fog? I guess. If he plays Mork Fog, he definitely has a reach. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he has pings on the board, right? He's got 1 on the Hunter, 2 on there. There's the Transform, and it's going to heal up the. Actually, I forgot
about the 3-point transformation on the Berserker. I forgot about that too. Actually, I wonder if it actually depends on. I'm not sure if it's going to come down to any of this armor ping, because Pajabol's still getting 2 points. It doesn't account for the 2 points that Pajabol's going to get here. This is going to come. It's not going to come down to armor, is it? I certainly hope not.
I have no idea. Don't do the math, Spiro. That's their job. That's not our job here. One thing that I think is actually quite good for Pajabol with this super boosted Biggest, should we call him Biggest because he's big, is that if it eats the Mork Fog, then the Mork Fog can't go onto something like the Hammer Dryad, or like if he has, let's say, the Gourd, good old Gordon. So it's kind of a blessing and kind of a curse.
Yeah, I mean, the Mork Fog is definitely going to end up eating all that boost onto the Figgis, and it's not going to end up getting that much carry value for Pajabol. While this Figgis does look like a massive play for Pajabol to make, it's just going to end up eating a Figgis, as Pajabol now going to use that Dunker, trying to force Tailbot out of the round, saying, stop playing this round, I want this round, go away, as Pajabol ends up using the Dunker. I guess it doesn't really matter for Pajabol. He's also saying that, you know what, I may as well use it because I don't want this Figgis getting any bigger. It doesn't matter. One way or another, Mork Fog is going to hit it anyway.
Yeah, and there's not enough turns, really. If you think about it, it's 3 points now versus, 2 more buffs? or 3 more buffs. So it would have kind of worked out equal in terms of the points. They just would have been spread out. 21 to 42. I mean, Tobliat, he doesn't want to play Harold. He doesn't want to play Morkvarg. And Bear Witch is not enough, right? So you just pass in that situation.
So Pajabol taking around 1. That is the first step that Pajabol needs to do. And quite often this deck does like to bleed Skellige, try to get that Iced up, because as we've seen, Iced is sometimes too much for most decks to answer, as Pajabol maybe going to look to try bleed it out in this round number 2 here, as he has got a massive figure. It's going to be played for 13 points of tempo. But again, it's a little bit too much boost, as Morkvarg just sitting comfortably in Tailbot's hand, ready to go. And there's the Hjalmar as well. Another fantastic card for Tailbot, just to answer off any other threat that Pajabol's able to put on the board. A very strong hand from both these players. I must say, these players do know how to draw well, it seems.
They are not reading the Spiro strategy guide to Gwent based on these draws. And yeah, biggest is now on the board here. One thing that's kind of annoying, I guess, for Tobliat in that situation is it's not even a Figus that you can kill with your Blaze of Glory, right? It's that big. It's just out of reach of Blaze of Glory as well. So killing it is going to be quite awkward.
Yeah, Tailbot will have to take 2 turns, at least 2 turns to deal with it. Morkvarg will help a lot, but even then, Tailbot will have to play something else. Maybe something like a, perhaps Morkvarg into something like Skirtle can deal with it. But
even then, surely Pajabol can just play the mightiest tree in the forest, that is the Forest Protector, into a Tempering and protect it some more. Like,
that is possible for sure. That would go up. I mean, you have to use a leader charge to keep it out of Hjalmar range, because then Hjalmar could potentially kill it. Looks like for now, though, Tailbot not going to opt to use the Morkvarg, instead going to play the Hjalmar instead, and that is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage, getting down to 3 strength, as Pajabol now will have the option of playing Tempering. Tempering will put it to 8 with 2 armor, and then with the help of a leader charge, it will be able to stay out of... Well, actually, now you could just use Tempering, and that should be good enough, as Pajabol should probably protect that, I would assume, next turn.
Yeah, the problem with that, I guess, to an extent, is that, you know, if you want to play Pavko this turn, I'm not saying you necessarily do, but if you want to, it's delaying your Pavko. But on the flip side, if you delay your Pavko, you're protecting him, you know? So the question is, for Pajabol, does he think that Tobliat can kill this and then kill Pavko? The answer to that is, I guess he thinks that Pavko should survive even if Figus dies here.
This does give Tailbot a very easy way to kill it with the Bear Witcher, however. It looks like he's going to boost up once. This does mean that the Skjorl can now kill it, so obviously Skellige having so much flexibility with exactly how much damage they need. You know, you need 3 damage, Bear Witch is your answer. You need 4 damage, Skjorl is your answer. You need 2 damage, Raid is your answer. Skellige is just very, very flexible with the amount of damage that they can fine-tune to any situation, as we see here with the Skjorl. Going to be able to clean up that Figus here.
Yeah, but then how does he clean up the Pavko? And Pajabol just keeps going, you know, pedal to the metal, balls to the walls here with the Aethne on the board as well. The Figus finally dying, but it took quite a lot. And Pavko pinging 2 damage per turn is getting to the point where Tobliat needs to start spending, because none of these are good Morkvarg targets.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for sure. And this does mean that maybe Tailbot starts to shift gears here and starts playing the reach game. Maybe Tailbot just says, okay, go commit some more. I'm going to let you do what you want. And then once you feel comfortable, once you think you got a good pass, I'm going to slam my Blood Eagle into ice. And then I'm going to suddenly catch right back up. So maybe that's what Tailbot's going for, except for... Actually, looks like he's going to go for the Blood Eagle now. Is this going to be an early ice coming out from Tailbot?
We'll have to wait and see. And yes, it is. He's decided that, you know, he wants the card. And I tend to agree with this line of play in a round 2 when someone's trying to bleed you. Spend the ice, you know, spend the leader, get the card, and then use things like Harold in round 3. He'll get last say, so it means that the Gourd isn't really as powerful. And all in all, I think it's a good strategy from Tobliat.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We did see Pajabol committing his Ethne, and Pajabol also committing 2 leader charge rounds. It's not like Pajabol hasn't committed anything. Pajabol's committed his fair share of cards too, as Tailbot now threatening card advantage, and still the likes of that Harold the Cripple threat for round number 3 with a card up. As you mentioned, Morkvarg also with Final Say can be so devastating onto the likes of a Gourd. So Pajabol has himself in a pretty difficult position here. Has to decide if he wants to keep going, or is this going to have to be the pass. But it is a difficult decision to make. Let's see what Pajabol decides to go for. Looks like he's going to take the push, not going to pass. just yet, and pulling out a Hammer Dryad with probably a accompanying leader charge, I would expect. But again, playing leader charge here does play a little bit into Morkvarg anyway.
Yeah, but if you get the Morkvarg out of Toblia, are you really that sad? Considering he, at the moment, has last say into a Gord.
Yeah, that is a fair point. If you do get the Morkvarg out, at least your Gord becomes a little bit safer, as now Tailbot is currently still, well, not really ahead after the Vitality's accounted for. So down by 1, but very easy for Tailbot to stay ahead here with a potentially Bear Witcher. Then again, Tailbot needs to do some math and figure out exactly what Pajabol's last card is and what card he can play after Pajabol plays the Forest Sector to stay ahead again, because Tailbot has to stay ahead again of the next card that Pajabol's playing. So Tailbot needs to think exactly how much tempo he needs right now to do so.
Yeah, and I think for Pajabol, if you trade your Isengrim's Council for the Morkvarg or for the Herald, you're happy. But Toblia thinking that this Bear Witcher may in fact just be enough. Pajabol now has to make a choice. Forest Protector, mightiest tree in the forest, pretty decent card, a lot of value. Is it worth the trade?
That is going to be a tough one. I mean, if you don't have final say, and Skellige still keeps the Herald the Cripple and Morkvarg for round 3 in a short round 3, I'm not sure how good Pajabol's chances are. But again, I don't know if he plays Forest Sector here, it's probably going to just trade for a Morkvarg, which I'm not sure if that's even that good of a trade, as we do see down comes this Helm or this Forest Sector anyway, and Tailbot quite easily able to take it with the Morkvarg and keep that Herald the Cripple and a card up for round 3. Pajabol doesn't really have all that much left. He does have Gezris, he does have Call the Forest and Shapely Nature, as well as Gord, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough against the likes of a Herald the Cripple with a card up.
Yeah, this bleed just really isn't working out quite the way that maybe Pajabol intended. I don't know, like if you get Morkvarg out, at least you can play your Gord, so it depends on how impactful your Gord is, but you're also down a card, so you gotta hope to top deck like a boss and hope that your opponent doesn't.
Those are not bad top decks of Pajabol. He does find the Call of Forest as well as a Shaping Nature. Not looking too bad. Dragoon probably not exactly what you want to see. Probably going to get mulliganed away. Tailbot's hand also looking just about as good as it is going to get, I think. And Pajabol now finding, unfortunately, just that Pirate Ignition.
I mean, he wants Fabian, right, instead of the War of Clans. That would be the greedy mulligan. But you risk hitting things like the Marauder, like the Raider. So, maybe you want to kind of sit on that one and then wait and see. One thing that is a bit frustrating here for Toblia is that he has to play first. So he's losing out on something. But actually, with the Herald, he does have access to Raiders and he has access to Raiders and Warriors. So he's only missing out on a ping in this situation.
Yep. And he does miss out on a ping, but he gets out the Cripple on early. And Pajabol now, that is going to be scary. Going to play the Pirate Ignition Tailbot now. Unfortunately, Tailbot can't lock that. He will not have Bloodthirst, and that's the thing about Jenga. He does have a little bit of a condition, so Tailbot going to play the Jenga anyway and just sacrifice the lock. So just going to play the 7-point Jenga. Not really going to be able to do all that much here, but Tailbot with a pretty big lead, 14-point lead. Pajabol trailing quite far behind now, as he does have that Call of Forest for a Gord with no Tall Punish from Tailbot, so Tailbot can't actually answer the Gord, but the question is, will it be enough though?
It might be one of those situations where I think it's going to be relatively close, but the Call of the Forest, if you'd gotten the Falve instead into the Call of the Forest, into the Gord, it puts a couple more points onto your Gord. So it's one of those things you want to do. You don't want to go Gord now, really, because you'd quite like the Shaping Nature to boost Gord by 1 more. But at the same time, with the boost, you're going to have to just do the 6 in the Veil, right? Or the 8, I guess, because you can't do Vitality in this situation because there's not enough turns.
Yeah, the Vitality won't be that good. Boost by 8 is probably going to end up being the best value here. Pajabol now going to play Call of Forest, grabbing that Falve once the extra nature card, spawning some more Trent, and possibly going to go for a Rebuke, killing off that Herald, a Cripple perhaps, which is exactly what Pajabol's going to do, which means last card of Pajabol will be an 8-point Shaping Nature, well actually 9-point with the Symbiosis value, and then 2 additional points potentially on that Pirate Ignition. So Pajabol looking to make another 11 points here. So basically 22 points on Pajabol's side of the board. Tailbot, I think, quite easily has this one.
Yeah, I think so. Pajabol there, deciding that he can't get enough points out of Gord, perhaps. Doesn't feel like Gord is the way forward. And opting to go for this Valve into this whatchamacallit?
Valve into this whatchamacallit. War of Clans?
No, he didn't play Valve into War of Clans.
Oh, you talking about? I thought into isn't what your opponent's going to play into.
No, I'm thinking of Dryad's Caress, right? You play Dryad's Caress.
Ah, Caress. So down comes the Brock for Hunters. So, I mean, the thing is that this matchup, it's kind of weird. It's usually favored for Scoia'tael, but this Morkfog and this Hjalmar completely changed the matchup, I think. These tech choices are quite big, as we do see here coming great value from Morkfog and Hjalmar in this matchup, allowing Tailbot to go card up into round 3 and then win with the likes of that Harold the Cripple, which was able to preserve. So early lead going in favor of Tailbot, 1-0 up in the series, gets that win through a Skellige, and now Tailbot will look to win with his, I believe, was Syndicate, and what else was, and it was Nilfgaard that he still has left.
Yeah, I think Nature's Gift is going to be the challenge for Pajabol in this situation. It is a solid list, but, you know, with the cards in Skellige, with the cards in... Well, Arrakis got banned, actually. So that's
I mean,
quite
there's Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard is a good matchup for Nature's Gift, so there's at least that for Pajabol.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You know, with the Nature's Gift, if he can find the right matchup, that was not the right matchup, then he's going to be okay. And you can see why he banned the Arrakis Swarm, right? Because ultimately, Arrakis Swarm is just going to poop all over Nature's Gift. You know, it's not going to end well. The insects are going to just ruin nature for everyone. And that's why you go for the ban, because if you feel like this is your weakest link, sometimes you'll ban around your weakest link rather than, say, banning something that's just generally good. You ban one of the decks that's best against your worst deck.
For sure. And it's going to be interesting to see now because of the fact that Pajabol, he does have that win available to him pretty much in the bag if he queues into Nilfgaard. But at the same time, this might impact Pajabol's queue order, because what Pajabol really can't afford to do now is perhaps queue a deck and let Nilfgaard through and then still be stuck with his Nature's Gift. So maybe Pajabol wants to keep queuing the Nature's Gift just to try get that matchup into Nilfgaard in case he misses it. Because if Pajabol does miss that matchup and then stuck with Nature's Gift, he could be in a really bad spot.
I guess the logic is, well, he's going to have to play Nilfgaard at some point. So if we just play Nature's Gift 3 times, then at least if we go 2-0 down at the start, we can choose the coin, because that makes life so much better.
Wait, what's wrong with ZA Internet? What is this chat saying? Anyway, maybe Pajabol actually going to go for the 5-head strategy. I love the strategy, right, Jagger? So you're listening? So you go two down into the series, right?
I'm not listening.
And then you choose the coin flip. And then you choose the coin flip for the remainder games, and you win the series. It's actually genius.
This is the first time we've done a series and I've finished my beer by the end of the first game. I'm just going to put that one out there, Spiro. So take of that what you will with this theory that you have.
All right, so game number 1 in favor of Tailbot. Game number 2 about to begin soon, as Pajabol now will be moving on to red coin and Tailbot will be moving on to blue coin, which does mean that Pajabol has to be careful, does not want to let that Nilfgaard go through, because again, Pajabol does seem to have a strategy that at least somewhat favors him against Nilfgaard in a lot of these matchups. So let's take a look and see what happens in game number 2.
I wonder how blue coin and red coin in tournaments is going to be impacted by the new stratagems.
That is an excellent question. It could be a lot, right? Like if there are decks that want to win round 1 and the only goal is must win round 1, then I'm in a fantastic spot. These strategies are going to help you do that. They are pretty strong now, so that could be interesting to see.
So that's the concern, right? And suddenly it might be the case. Remember when blue coin was bad? Blue coin bad, red coin good. Like, it might now be blue coin good, red coin bad. And that does sometimes happen in Gwent meta, you know? The coin flip is a fickle beast. And the thing is, making stratagems better just makes going first that much better. And there's decks where going first is already favored. So it is a little bit scary. I will say that.
Yep.
But you know what? CDPR do new things. I don't play competitively, so it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, I agree. There is definitely some situations where blue coin is actually beneficial. So, I mean, it used to be, as you mentioned, a situation of red coin which is superior. But nowadays, there are a lot of times actually where you want to have blue coin. It's actually quite common with blue coins. There are definitely times where you want red coin. There are some decks that do like red. For example, Syndicate does like red. But there are also times where you really like blue coin. Like, for example, Nature's Gift loves to have blue coin, which is why you see it so often being brought in blue coin in these tournaments.
Yeah, I think maybe Toblia off to the bathroom. He is renowned. He is a renowned mid-tournament peer. Like peer, not peer, as in long thing that extends into the ocean. Like he likes to have a bathroom break mid-tournament. He used to do it at live sessions. He just kind of get up and wander out the... basically the way it's filmed is it's all filmed in this like small building room thing, and he sometimes just buggers off to go to the toilet, and the casters have to stop talking about things relevant to him because he can hear us. But we're back. Tobliat, Nilfgaard, Pajabol, monsters. So he missed Nature's Gift, Nilfgaard.
This is an important matchup. Every time Tailbot ends up queuing Nilfgaard, I think it's going to be a big matchup because of the fact that Pajabol, this is one of the matchups where he's kind of teched. He's not super teched against it. It's not the end of the world if Tailbot does win with Nilfgaard, but it definitely will significantly diminish Pajabol's chances, I think, if Nilfgaard goes through, because then his Nature's Gift is kind of stranded. Because then what's going to have happen to Pajabol if he loses this game is at some point now that Pajabol's going to have to queue Nature's Gift into Syndicate, and that is not a fun ship to be in. You do not want to be in that situation, as Tailbot now going to look to win with Nilfgaard. Very important game this game number 2 will be.
You know what is a fun ship to be in?
What?
A friendship.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, the imprisonment, though, is not massive in the situation, right? I mean, the damage of it is nice. The damage is nice, but the lock aspect, not really going to do a whole lot here.
Yeah, can I get some weird cheers in the chat for Jagras, please?
No. Can I get some Spiro Uwus in the chat first? We'll see who wins this battle.
Oh, boy. All right, so it looks like down will come the Dora Grey, locking off that Nausicaa Sergeant right away, and typically what you do expect to see from monsters here.
I think I win for the record in the chat battle of the century. Yeah, Nausicaa Sergeant, a standard opener. Tolbliat making hay while the sun shines, poisoning Dora Grey because it's likely to be the biggest unit that he'll get the option to poison. You know, you would like to poison a big Arrakis, but if you can't, a 6 is pretty decent.
So poison does, come down. I mean, as you mentioned, there's not really much to poison against monsters, so 6 is about all you're going to get, as Tailbot will take it as he sees it. Now, the question is, will Pajabol invest that Crimson Curse to put Tailbot under some pressure in this round number 1? Or exactly what is Pajabol's other plans going to end up being? The Crimson Curse, though, doesn't really have a good road to go on just yet, because you really want to wait for the other player to develop a bit more before you invest that Crimson Curse. So we'll have to see what Pajabol's thoughts are on that matter.
Yeah, if you end up not poisoning the Nausicaa Sergeant, the Nausicaa Sergeant row is nice to Crimson Curse because the Sergeant grows, so you're going to get value out of it. But if you're going to lock it instead, it is worth waiting. Also, if you can win round 1 without spending Crimson Curse, we saw it happen, I believe, in the previous semi-final with Tailbot, it can be massive. So sitting on it is not a bad shout. See how you get on with your drones and then play it. But if you play it too late, you're not going to see the value of it because it does take quite a few turns to activate.
So, that is definitely true. You want to play it early, but again, you can't really play it right now for Pajabol. So instead, he's going to end up going for the Swarm, rather. Gets those drones started on the melee row there, as Tailbot now going to play the poison, completed with the Cupbearer, and flips the lamp, trying to tempo himself a pass now, getting himself far away enough from Pajabol that he can get a pass guaranteed, as Pajabol needs to do 14 points if he wants to threaten card advantage. I don't really think is all that possible looking at his hand right now.
Yeah, he'd have to, do the math, think about things like leader charges, think about Aneromancy and what it has access to. But 14 points in this current situation with a Swarm list, I think, is just a little bit out of reach at the moment. If you expect Tolbliat to pass, though, it does mean you can play quite cheaply here. You can pick your 2 best cards that you think are going to close the gap and potentially save Crimson Curse. But then the question becomes, is Tolbliat kind of trying to bait Pajabol into playing slow and delaying the Crimson Curse and then choosing to draw out the round? Because it could be a bait and switch.
Yeah, and let's take a look now and see exactly if... I mean, Tailbot's hand, he does have the hunting pack. You would love to thin those out in this round 1. Pajabol instead going to commit the Crimson Curse now. Does offer Tailbot the pass. Question is Tailbot going to take this pass? It looks very threatening to play into into Crimson Curse. One thing that's important of noting here is Tailbot's lead ability with the likes of Imprisonment is a little bit worse in this matchup. There isn't really much to lock, and you would much rather have a lead ability that you play one of your opponent's cards, threaten something like a Yennefer or an Aneromancy or even a Yrden in some situations with that lead ability, whereas Tailbot is going to have just this kind of a 6-point lead ability in this matchup, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot of great targets available for double crossing monsters. Triss as well. If you're Team Triss, it's pretty nice. Actually, I like this Arrakis list just because it's like OGs, right? You've got Triss, you've got Yennefer, you've got Geralt, you've got monsters, you've got everything that The Witcher is about in one small deck. So in terms of like lore and fan service, I feel like this is the deck that you should play. Tailbot, though, he's opting to thin his hunting pack. It's a really easy thing to do against Arrakis Swarm because those Arrakis are doomed. Tailbot not even having to set up his own status. Pajabol managing to set him up. Yeah, apparently this is like a dating game now. But yeah, he's set up the status so the Tailbot can thin his hunting packs. And Pajabol, I think he recognized that Tailbot wanted to play a bit longer and opted to spend the Crimson Cursed, knowing that he needed to play something that is going to give him some tempo over a few turns.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit dangerous for Tailbot here, though. Playing into this Crimson Curse, if Pajabol has a nice way to get ahead here, it could spell disaster for Tailbot. If Payabol's able to get ahead, he will likely stay ahead. Then again, Tailbot does have the Joachim and the coup de grace off of the mana. If things do go south, he kind of has that in his back pocket to maybe bail him out of things. So I guess maybe that's Tailbot's reasoning here, saying, well, if worse comes to worse, I still have an extra strategy, as Pajabol now going to end up getting some more Swarm on the board. And this is possibly Tailbot's last time to get an easy pass. If not, he might have to really fight for this round if he keeps going.
I think if you're Tailbot, though, what more do you really want to spend at this stage?
Yeah, it's quite hard.
Like, only Menno, I think, is the thing that you would consider spending, using Menno to thin maybe a battle prep or something along those lines.
But then you don't have the guaranteed access to the coup de grace. It's a bit spooky to do that. That's the thing.
Well, then you just peace out of the round. I mean, look at that army of bugs. Like, if you're an arachnophobe, I'm assuming that Arrakis are arachnids.
I am indeed an arachnophobe, so I'm looking at this board state with great anxiety.
You're just mashing spacebar, like, get me out of this round. And totally agreeing with that, getting out of the round, getting away from the drones. I'm pretty sure Arrakis are arachnid. And Pajabol can take it quite easily here with the Endrega Warriors. It's not a core card in his strategy. He's ahead just by a couple points, which is exactly how you want to be winning a round one. Yep, one thing I want to draw attention to is Payabol's choice not to go for Erden and to go for Curse of Corruption. And that pays dividends in this matchup, because in this matchup, Nilfgaard can't touch your stuff. It can't take your Erden and use it against you. You're not going to end up in that situation where we saw a player passing with Erden in hand. I think it was Tailbot, actually, because they couldn't play it against Arrakis Swarm. Arrakis Swarm, you've got this nice, big, tall damage. You can kill the biggest unit on the board. Your biggest unit is usually about 6. Nilfgaard, you've got Joachim. There's going to be some thick units for Curse of Corruption. Like, Tailbot is going to get the cock one way or another.
Yeah, it's very awkward having both Jurgen and Yennefer in this match, because you really want to play both of them last, but unless you can secure double final say, you can't really do that. But when you only have the Yennefer, you can kind of play that one last, and you can play around the coup de grace that way. Whereas if you have Jurgen and Yennefer, then you're kind of stuck with 2 of these cards. You kind of say, well, I can't play both these last, so I guess I just can't play one of them. So the Curse of Corruption can be a nice way to get over that hurdle, as Pajabol will end up playing into this round 2 and is going to end up putting that Spontaneous Evolution with a leader charge here, swarming the board, as Tailbot going to have to defend this bleed. Tailbot's hand looking pretty good to defend the bleed. He has got almost a full golden hand, I think, at this point. One downside, of course, being that the Dutch Informant not really an amazing card against a Ruckus Swarm a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's not really the bronzes that you want to draw. Someone in the chat asking about the Squirrel Mulligan, because it could have been used on coup, but if you're going for a bleed, you can't afford to play that slow. That's the issue with Squirrel. Is it's lovely in that you deny the repeated coup de grace, but on the flip side, you're playing a 4-point play. And when you need to stay ahead of your opponent through just playing high tempo, it doesn't really fit into that strategy. So Pajabol opting to throw it in the bin and instead go for cards that are going to allow him to more successfully bleed his opponent.
Yeah, for sure. The Squirrel definitely is a bit awkward when you are trying to you're trying to stay ahead of your opponent, and that is going to be awkward, especially when final say is extremely important for Pajabol, because he needs to try play around that coup de grace. I mean, I guess if you argue that you play the squirrel, you don't need to have play around the coup de grace anyway. But still, you definitely don't want to be losing your card here. And playing squirrel might just be a bit too slow. As Pajabol now going to play that second evolution, swarming the board, and Tailbot now 11 points behind. So he needs to start thinking about what he's going to do with this usurper. As I guess there's one actual benefit of having this leader ability in this matchup, is you can use it to open up space for your spies, for your things like your usurper and whatnot. So I guess there is that going for Tailbot with this leader ability, at least in this matchup.
Yeah, there's no clog champ going to be going on in that situation. How are you feeling, Spiro, about this army of Arrakis bearing down upon you?
I'm not gonna. I don't envy Tailbot's position. I'm not gonna lie. When I see some spiders, I tend to run for the hills because, Tailbot, he's gonna have to be one of those brave people that kind of just go grab the spider, chuck it outside. Because I am not one of those people. As Tailbot now going to invest the Masquerade Ball, a card that we just saw in the dev stream, about to get a change. So Tailbot getting the last bit of life out of this Masquerade Ball before the next patch ends up hitting.
So here's the question. Do you care about the poisons? Like, do you heat wave this Masquerade Ball, or do you just think like, eh? I mean, it gives him more tempo. That's the concern, I guess, for Pajabol, is getting those extra 4-point bodies of tempo means that the bleed is going to be more difficult. But on the flip side, if you keep heat wave, I guess he's like, that'll do.
Interesting pass. I mean, Pajabol just saying, well, I got what I need out of you. I'm going to keep my tall punishers for your Joachims in round 3, and I've come for what I needed. I mean, Pajabol, I think one of the big reasons why I want to bleed round 2 is just to shorten round 3 a little bit. Doesn't want to end up overswarming because, again, against Nilfgaard, long rounds, overswarming is a big issue. So Pajabol saying, okay, bleed a little bit round 2. I got your Masquerade Ball as well, quite cheaply. I'm out. Cool, let's go next round. I can deal with this overswarm issue much more easily now, and your ball is gone.
It's a bit tricky here, though, for Tailbot to make those 8 points he needs to win. That's the other thing. Like, this pass is actually kind of awkward. Like, Duchess isn't going to work. You can't play Invocation on the current board state. So you're going to have to spend something. And playing Cantarella. Look at this.
Is that even enough? Is this even enough, though? I don't think it is. Ooh, Tailbot's going to use a leader charge as well now, and he does end up playing the Cantarella onto the location. I mean, it's not. It's not exactly
himself. Like that's not good. He YOLO Cantarella. He decided, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take something from you. Maybe I'll high roll. And he didn't. Let's be real. The location isn't a core card for Pajabol to win. He got a leader charge out of Tailbot, which means he can't remove a swarm. It also means it's harder for him to make space for his spies. I think if you're Pajabol, you're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the worst thing in the world. There were much worse things that could have been pulled out of your deck, perhaps, as Tailbot does have a bit of an awkward counter. I mean, he was difficult for him to make the points up. I'm not sure what his other options really were. I guess maybe he could have thought about going Joachim, but decided this was going to be the best course of action, as Tailbot now will go into a pretty long round 3 against Arrakis Swarm. Pajabol has got the Heat Wave and the Curse of Corruption for a double tall punish. So if Pajabol's saying basically to Tailbot, you want to play 2 Joachims? Well, I'm going to play two tall punishes, and thanks for the 4-point bodies you're going to put on my side of the board.
I just don't like that decision from Tailbot, because the thing is, like, yes, Cantarella, you need Joachim in the graveyard in order to activate it. But when you have a leader ability that deals damage, you can put Joachim in your opponent's graveyard, right? So he had options to do that. I guess he didn't want to spend something more expensive was the situation. And he'd have had to do that to take the round, I suppose.
I guess maybe Tailbot's worried about Joachim pulling out of Brothens. That could be a massive overcommitment if it did end up happening. So perhaps maybe you want to mitigate the chance of that happening. However, we're going to see Parasite now being used to answer that Nausicaa Sergeant. Pajabol's hand looking a little bit awkward in terms of he doesn't have much swarm. He can, of course, use lead ability. He can, of course, I guess against Nilfgaard, actually, you can kind of just say whatever, they'll swarm the board for me in a way. So maybe it's not that bad. But of course, there is still a Neuromancy which Pajabol can use to try swarm the board a bit too.
The worst part, I guess, for Tailbot in this situation for Tailbot is that the Dol Look order ability might have been useful had he drawn differently, because it moves the highest power unit to the top of your deck. And Joachim plays the highest non-disloyal unit at the top of your deck. The problem that Tailbot has is that his highest units were like Vigo and then Roderick. So it wouldn't even guarantee the Vigo. But actually, he got lucky there. He got the Vigo.
Oh, I just realized.
I would have thought.
If you look at Tailbot's deck, he has no more units in deck, no more actual loyal units, rather, which means he can't replay Joachim unless he uses Invocation to try get one of those units back onto his deck. So right now, this coup de grace looking a little bit iffy for Tailbot here without any units left in deck.
I think you have to then invo something that's gonna, be impactful. Maybe invoing a Triss, something like that, is your best case scenario.
Yeah, possibly. Or that, well, yeah, probably end up being Triss, perhaps. So we'll have to see what Pajabol's going to have to say about that. As we now do see, down will come the Usurper. Will we see a click? I mean, it's very risky not to click here, as Tailbot does end up clicking indeed, and that will put Tailbot now up by quite a few points, 15 points, in fact, as Pajabol still has so much left available for him with all the swarm, but that is still a big point gap to try catch up on.
Yeah, it is worth noting that the Gotha Gvade, he can put something on the top of his deck with that, right? So, is an option. Oh no, that puts it on the top of his opponent's deck.
Yeah. The question
Never
is,
mind.
how much value is this Yennefer actually going to be for Pajabol in this long round 3? I mean, you have to play it as your last say, and Nilfgaard, they can put some units on their side of the board too. It's not like Nilfgaard doesn't swarm the board at all, so I'm not 100% sure just how great this Yennefer is going to be for Pajabol, honestly.
It's probably not going to be the best, but at the same time, Pajabol does have some removal in this variant of the deck. He's got the Heat Wave, so he can utilize that to kind of clear up a little bit of space and try and balance units. And all things considered, because Tailbot plays units on his side as well, Pajabol probably going to have a few more units. So even if Yennefer plays for maybe 6 or 8, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this ends up playing out for Tailbot. Yeah, still has 1 leader charge left. He can use to lock that Night Wraith if he wants to. There really isn't much else to lock in this matchup, so that does appear to be one of the better lock targets. Then again, Tailbot might just call Pajabol out in his bluff, say, hey, you don't have a way to actually proc that Death Wish. I'm not going to lock it. I'm going to keep this for later. So let's see how much Tailbot is going to respect this Night Wraith, if he's going to invest the leader charge here or not.
I don't know. I kind of feel like Tailbot's a little bit forked in this situation. And by forked, I mean fucked. Because Poison is just trash. Like, Fangs is a 4-point play. Currently, his Joachim is pulling absolutely nothing, which is trash. He can't play his... What the... Viper Witcher Adept. This is what I mean.
I mean, Jagras, Tailbot's just getting ready for the Alchemist buff. I don't know what you're talking about. He's just getting ready, getting that adept down on the board, saying this is going to be the new wholesome way to play. Location soon, as Alchemist is probably going to get buffed. I mean, well, did I say buffed? Wait. Why did I just say buffed?
You want to get buffed?
Nerfed. God
no, I think that was a wee Freudian slip. You're giving your true heart's desires here to the chat. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying with Tailbot's hand and like the fact that Pajabol can't really swarm, or that his Yennefer's not going to be as impactful. But a lot of Tailbot's cards are just dead in the water at this point. The Brathens you can use for a boost. You're still putting units on your opponent's side of the board. Yes, you can clear 1 space for a spy, so I guess that's a thing. And playing emissaries is always nice, but yeah, I don't know. It's not that spicy.
Yeah, now Pajabol's starting to get that swarm on the board with the Triss there, as that might just have to be Tailbot's invocation target if he's planning on playing Coup de Grace onto that Joachim. He needs to get a unit in his deck, so that may just be the invo target. We'll have to see, as this poison hand for Tailbot going to be pretty much completely useless. So that's going to be a nice 4-point play, actually 5-point play with the agent tag, as we're going to see Brothens now come out, going to be grabbing and Duchess Informant trying to get to, like us from Tailbot, getting some more units on his side of the board, making the Yennefer worse for Pajabol. So also trying to swarm his own side of the board in the meantime.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's one of the problems with the Night Wraith is that it does play anti-synergy with your swarming. So Pajabol likely to lose out on a little bit of value from his Yennefer. Also, if you look at Tailbot's point gap, it is currently 39 to 22. And Pajabol has 3 leader charges. He has, 4 spaces? And he has a few cards left in hand. Bear in mind, though, the Chimeras do consume, which is pretty nice. His Heatwave... that's just a special card, and his Neuromancy is going to pull a Bone Talisman. So I think he's just about okay for space.
Yeah, I mean, the space for Pajabol should be fine, except for the big issue of the fact that I'm not liking what I'm seeing when I look at this Yennefer. Pajabol now going to
like that.
Is that trying to deny Invo from Tailbot?
I think it might be, because maybe you're worried about space as well, and maybe you're just thinking, I've seen a lot of units at this point, unless his only other unit he hasn't seen, actually. Yeah, the only unit Pajabol hasn't seen is Fangs. So at that point, you're thinking, if he has Fangs in hand, then he needs to invocate my best card in order to draw a card. I really, really, really like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up playing out. I mean, Tailbot could have actually got very good value at that Trust if he did end up getting Joachim into Trust into a Talisman. Could have been pretty good for Tailbot, as Pajabol going to deny it. But the problem is, Pajabol's very far behind. I'm not sure if this play is going to be good enough for him to win the game. We'll have to see, as down will come the Chimera now, and scoreline still 10 points in favor for Tailbot, as Tailbot doesn't have a whole lot left, but at the same time, this Yennefer isn't looking all that incredible.
Yeah, I think the problem for Pajabol is he has to play Yennefer last, and because of that, it means that Tolbliac can always coup de grace the Duchess's Informant should he wish, get another Night Wraith, get 3 more units on his side of the board, and really start to mess things up a little bit. For Pajabol, you're also not putting an extra unit down, right? Because you kill the Duchess's Informant to plant a new one. So it's one of those things you have to think about.
And there comes Invocation for Tailbot. Looks like he's going to have to invocate that. That invocation on to the Chimera still will be decent with the boost from the Joachim. But again, Pajabol, what exactly is the Nearmancer doing? I think it is pulling out maybe a Ruckus Behemoth, or probably actually Bone Tasman. You're right. Bone Tasman probably going to be the pull to make, as Pajabol is currently down by 19 points, but still has a big heat wave potentially, still has somewhat of a decent Yennefer, and still a Bone Talisman which will play for approximately 18 points or so.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. If you think that the Bone Talisman is 18 points, right, so that makes them basically even. So the question is Tolbliac's coup de grace and Fangs worth more than Heatwave and Yennefer? And I think the answer is no. Because they've got 3 points in leader charges each.
Yeah, although
Pajabol's 3 points are worth a lot more because they give bodies for boosting.
Yep, that is true. Here comes the heater. Very early heater from Pajabol here. Opts to rather play the heat wave early, loses a little bit of value potentially on to the answer of the coup de grace, but at the same time also does allow him to free up his sequencing for the next 2 plays, as Tailbot now possibly going to just think about dumping a Fangs for the time being, or maybe even playing the coup de grace now. I mean, at this point, kind of just players have gone through the hard part. They're just going to play the last of the cards, and I think that it's going to be close, but I think Pajabol just has it.
Yeah, so the one thing Pajabol has to be careful of is ensuring he has enough space for Yennefer. That's the one concern he needs to play around. Make sure that when he plays his Arrakis, because he's going to play Arrakis next turn, he's going to play the Bone Talisman. He's got 3 Arrakis in hand, 1 space on the front row, 2 spaces on the back row. He can't play all of them. I don't think he can even play 2 of them, because if he plays 2 of them, he's only leaving 1 space, and that means that Tolbliac can potentially play this weird play where you hit the Joachim and then replay the Joachim for nothing, but you've blocked your opponent's board, so they can't play Yennefer.
So let's see now what Pajabol opts to go for. Can't play the Yennefer early because of the threat of the coup de grace, so this is going to probably be the turn where Pajabol just goes 3 leader charges into the Talisman.
You don't play 3 leader charges because you block your Yennefer.
What? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no,
4,
wait,
5,
he's got 3
6,
spaces
7,
on the back
8.
row.
Yeah, there's still space.
Yeah, and then I guess Tolbliac can't block with the coup de grace because he'd have to hit Joachim, and he's not got a target for that.
Yeah. So here comes
he's got Chimera.
Yeah, comes leader charge for Pajabol. Pajabol actually gonna opt to go for keeping 2 leader charge. Gonna go for the Talisman, it seems, as that will end up playing for a whole lot of points. It's going to basically come down to Yennefer versus the coup de grace.
He's got Chimera now, doesn't he? Because he played
because
he played the knifey knife. Was it the knifey knife?
Knifey knife?
What no, the Invo. He played the Invo on the Chimera. I'm talking nonsense.
Yes.
So in that situation, would you have been better to consume Joachim instead of Triss?
Yeah, that's actually not a horrible alternative either, as we see Tailbot now going to play the Chimera. There it comes. That is a big point gap, and that makes the Yennefer a lot worse. I don't know. Tailbot win? wins?
I think Tailbot wins, yeah.
Ooh, looks like it is going to be Tailbot winning by 5 points. Very, very close one, actually, as Pajabol not looking too happy about how this round went. Seems like Tailbot will take the win putting himself 2-0 in the series. And Jaggers, you know what that means? It means it's time for the coin flip choosing reverse sweep. It's happening. It's coming.
Yeah, this is not looking so hot for Pajabol. He's lost with Araka Swarm. He's lost with Nature's Gift. I wonder if consuming Joachim and denying Joachim there was the way you needed to do that. I think it probably was, instead of eating the Triss.
Yeah, I'd have to go back on that one and analyze it. That one was actually a pretty interesting game. There was a lot of things going on there, lots to speak about in that regard. Would require some math, but very, very interesting choices there from Pajabol, eating the Triss there to try to deny the invocation. And Joachim, as you mentioned, though, Pajabol could maybe perhaps eaten the Joachim instead, and that would have denied the coup de grace a little bit. So could maybe have been a bit different in that situation. As we're going to go into what could be the final game if Tailbot does win now, as Tailbot now winning with Nilfgaard is very big, and this is huge because now Pajabol, even if he wins the next 2 games in a row, at some point he's going to have to play Scoia'tael, Nature's Gift into Syndicate, and that is a very hard matchup for Scoia'tael to win.
Yeah, well, he's taken a leaf out of the Spiro book of tricks, the Spiro Gwent strategy guide. I'm going 2 down, so now he can choose the coin flip. Yes. I honestly really want to commend Tailbot here on his sequencing. I feel like Tailbot has gotten a lot of the matchups that he wanted. You know, playing Skellige into Nature's Gift, for example, avoiding the Nilfgaard into Nature's Gift. He's getting the kind of situations that he wanted to play. And now going into this final round, he's just got to win with Syndicate, the tier 1est of decks.
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting point. What Tailbot could have potentially, if Pajabol did end up eating the Joachim, Tailbot could have, in theory, played leader onto the Triss and then coup de grace the Triss anyway. So he may, but then again, I mean, it comes down to what Triss finds in that regard. So I'm not sure. This game, I'm not sure how much it would have changed, but definitely an interesting one nonetheless. As Pajabol going to have his work cut out for him, reverse sweeping Syndicate. Not easy to do. Then again, I just want to point out in the most recent qualifier, I believe there was a player. I think his name was like Lord Triss or something. Was it Lord Triss? I actually don't know. Someone in the qualifier. He was down 0-2 and reverse swept 2 plays in a row, and one of them was Tailbot, and both times he was up against Syndicate. So it's happened. It has happened. Will it happen again?
So Araka Swarm versus Syndicate. We've seen this a few times.
We have, it's John Sally. Okay. John Sally, you say. All right. So, yeah, we've seen this one happen a couple of times. Definitely would have to give it to Syndicate, to Monsters, I think, in this matchup is going to be Pajabol once again trying with Monsters as he has to beat Tailbot 3 times in a row. He does get to choose the coin flip, as I keep mentioning, but now we'll see if that's going to help him out here, as Blue Coin will end up giving Pajabol a little bit of extra boost in this round 1 to perhaps maybe get that round control and get himself that long round 3 against Syndicate here.
Yeah, and Pajabol, he just looks a bit anxious at this point in time. You'll see him shaking his head a wee bit. He's maybe not too happy with his opening hand. Opens up with some eggs. Who doesn't like eggs in the morning or first play? I guess it's not really morning for most of you. Unless you're maybe in like Australia, in which case, g'day. I hope it's going well.
Yep, I mean, this egg will get decent value here. No locks or any shenanigans for Tailbot to stop it. So now we're going to see down will come the safe cracker. This one actually going to be a little bit of a sad cracker, as it will come down at 5. Not very big. That is a halfling if I've ever seen one.
That's a Sag cracker right there.
That is indeed a Sag cracker. Very, very small one, as not going to be all that threatening for Pajabol to go up against.
No, I'm not too scared. I'm not too scared. So, you know, Pajabol, he was shaking his head a little bit, I guess, with the state of his hand. But seeing a 5-point safe cracker, I guess that has to kind of boost your spirits just a little bit.
Yeah, this will make it a lot easier for Pajabol to take control of this round. And Araka Swarm in this matchup with round control is very, very scary. As Araka Swarm, Syndicate doesn't really have many good ways to deal with it. I mean, Tailbot does play with the Junior, which can be another way of spending coins to kill off some of these tokens. So it's kind of like I would say budget drill, but it's not actually budget drill because it's more expensive. So it's like a costly budget drill, if that makes sense. Sounds a bit convoluted, but it can be used as a nice spender against a Ruckus Swarm.
Yeah, it gives you some options, right, with removal. If your drill dies as well, you can then spend 3 to kill Arrakis. And Arrakis are worth about 3 points apiece, sometimes a lot more depending on the boost. So you're probably not too unhappy with squishing some mugs. Furco into Cleaver, maybe? No, well, we'll see.
And this Foco does mean that this is pretty much Tailbot's best target to transform with that Senior. So we might end up seeing Senior come down soon to transform the Foco because there really isn't a whole lot else that Tailbot can actually transform in this matchup. So may end up seeing the commitment come from Senior soon to try to put some extra pressure on Pajabol, as Pajabol now going to invest that Crimson Curse onto the melee row and respecting the threat of that Senior potentially next turn.
I don't know how Furco was pulling Cleaver in my head. I stopped to think about that and realized I'm talking absolute nonsense. Pajabol getting pretty lucky so far with, well, not pretty lucky. He hit the Safecracker, so he missed a 1 in 4 basically with the bleeding. So getting that onto a target there. We have seen some weird hits with these Crimson Curse. Admittedly, the current board state, there's no Veil really going on in Syndicate. So once you ping off the shield, it's kind of free sailing. So this is a really nice stacked row for that Crimson Curse. 26 points for Pajabol, 18 points for Tailbot, means that Pajabol quite comfortably beginning to swarm the board. And I think if Tailbot wants to contest this round, he is going to have to start committing a bit more value.
Yep. Tailbot's going to have to invest something, as we're going to see down will come the dip in the Pontoff for now, just removing a body, getting some value on those Intimidates, and Tailbot just going to start maybe playing the reach game for the time being, as Pajabol quite happy to maybe just spend an evolution here, get some more swarm on the board and start threatening some big chimeras or maybe talismans. So let's see what Pajabol is willing to spend in this round, as Tailbot not investing, maybe waiting for the bleed to maybe hit. Ooh, interesting pass here from Pajabol. Actually playing the Crimson Curse and then passing. That is very, very unusual to see a pass like this.
Yeah, because it's not even a particularly big point gap. I mean, I guess when you think about the Crimson Curse, it's going to hit at least once more. You're losing 2 points from, or 3 points from bleeding, right? Because they trigger at the end of your turn, at least. Ooh, it's a difficult math situation. That's what Pajabol has done to Tailbot. He's put him into a little awkward math situation.
I mean, I don't think that Tailbot is a stranger to doing these little math puzzles, I guess you could say, as I mean, it might be difficult for him to do these points actually because he doesn't have that many coins in the bank. He might invest a leader charge or two, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't be too difficult to do. As we see, down will come the assault, and that won't be enough. So I guess maybe Pajabol now going for a tempo pass, it seems, and Tailbot actually will end up going 2 down, meaning he won't be able to bleed round 2.
And I quite like this pass also, because if Tailbot had managed to tempo ahead, or at least play 1 card and get ahead, he's not thinning Flying Redanian in this round, which means that there's still the risk of the brick as well. So there's kind of a lot of reasons why this actually works out as a pretty spicy situation. Tailbot now spending his Neuromancy. He's saying, I'm not going to bleed you in round 2. I can't really do that. So I may as well spend a Neuromancy here, carry it through to round 3, opting for the shakedown, trying to get that Flying Redanian out. There we go. The bleed pings. That Crimson Curse did quite a lot there.
This first save, I mean, this is actually pretty good for Pajabol because now he gets first save. And this matchup first save is quite nice because you get to, get your swarm down quickly before your opponent's able to set up their transfers, before they're able to get drill online. You can potentially get all that swarm established, play the early Yennefer or whatever, and boost up your drones before they are completely nuked off the face of the planet by that drill, perhaps. So Pajabol getting that first say in round 3 will be quite advantageous, as Pajabol now will have Tailbot 2 cards down, where it's pretty hard to bleed 2 cards down, and I don't really think we're going to see a bleed here come from Tailbot.
He may play 1 card just because, it is 8 cards. So if you have something that you feel like you don't need going forward, you can potentially play that. That is like a choice you can kind of make. It depends how scared you are. And I feel like Arrakis Swarm in a very long round like this is terrifying.
Yeah, it is quite scary, but I mean, bleeding one card down is hard enough. Bleeding two cards down is borderline suicide. As Tailbot now going to play the Aneromancy here. Is that the second use of the Aneromancy? I think it is. So going to be playing the Dead Fist deck just to fall. And I like this. For those who don't understand this play, it's actually quite interesting because these cards do need a target on the board to actually play. But if you tutor them through something like a Neuromancy or maybe something like Furco, you kind of force them to spawn or force them to give you profit. So Tailbot using the Neuromancy there to guarantee get himself the boat out of the deck and some coin carryover.
This play is also sexy because it plays around Squirrel. I just want to put that one out there. Like, by doing that, Tailbot hits 9 coins, he thins the Flying Redanian, and it means that Pajabol Squirrel can't go munching on Ghost. Little Squirrel, not a Ghostbuster this time around. Pajabol, though, he's maybe thinking Tailbot's about to pass here. I'm not going to play this Squirrel in round 3, so I'll just play it now, and then I can keep all of these stacked cards in my hand, have 8 bajillion mulligans, and try and find the perfect round 3 hand, because we go in 10 cards. Like, we go in deep this time.
Yeah, this is going to be a long round 3, and that is going to be scary if you are Tailbot here. Tailbot, though, did have to spend the last of his Neuromancy uses in the round 2 there. Then again, his hand is looking so good. I think that's what his justification is saying. Well, my hand's so good, I don't need my Neuromancy anymore. May as well just use it round 2 for some more coin carry. As Pajabol looking to try get the same quality of hand draws in this round. Number 3, he does have first say, getting a tempo pass in round number 1. And that is going to be quite nice. Pajabol finds the Andrega Warrior. Doesn't look very happy about that one. He has his facial expression there saying quite a bit not happy with that mulligan.
I mean, he had that many mulligans. I think you hoped to find the cards that you wanted. I think he was looking for maybe the Triss and the Curse of Corruption, perhaps.
Yeah, Dargrey also nice. Dargrey beyond.
No, he mulliganed Dargrey.
Oh, did he? Whoa, that's interesting.
He mulliganed Dargrey. So, who knows?
That is unusual for sure, as Pajabol not happy with his final hand here, which...
Yeah, but look at Tailbot's. Look at Tailbot's deck.
Yeah, I mean, Tailbot did miss the gourd. Heat isn't very good, neither is Tavern Brawl, so you only really missed the gourd. But in terms of what both players miss here, I mean, Triss, I guess, in this matchup isn't really all that great because of the fact that it's not very reliable. It's still a good card, to be fair. You still want it. Curse of Corruption, though, is a card that Pajabol would love to have seen. And I'm not 100% sure I like the mulligan on Dargrey because Dargrey really nice to be able to lock away something like a cleaver. I guess maybe Pajabol worried about the Kurt, and that's a very nice Dargrey being a very nice bounty target for Pajabol, but can instead just use the heat wave to deal with that cleaver right away, it seems.
Yeah, I think if you expect Kurt to purify, then you don't really care about the lock. It's not really doing anything in that situation. He does have the Neuromancy, right? So he has access. He's still shaking his head. He's no happy boy. He does have the Neuromancy, so he has access to one of the cards that he, maybe wants. And he's got a decent amount of Swarm going so far. He's managed to stop the Cleaver, so deny the Tailbot Swarm. Maybe that's his issue. He just doesn't feel like he has enough Swarm in hand, right? Because he missed the Spontaneous Evolution. He missed the Arrakis Nest.
Yep, that is true. There isn't that much Swarm here. Maybe that's why he wanted it. I mean, the Triss would have likely been able to... Yeah, this hand does... Oh, that's a fair point. He's got a lot of payoff. You've got 2 Talismans here. You got the Yennefer, but if you can't get those units on the board... That's the thing about this deck. That's one very awkward thing, is this deck requires a very fine balance between Swarm and payoff. And if you're lacking one of those 2 aspects... then suddenly this deck becomes quite awkward, and Pajabol missing the Swarm aspect of this deck, so these payoffs aren't going to look too good.
I mean, he can Neuromancy the Triss and hope to hit Spontaneous Evolution or Arrakis Nest, so that's the kind of the dream here, and get the Swarm that way. It means he loses out on his Curse of Corruption, but that's maybe the price you have to pay. With the current situation, he can consume this poison, right? He's got the Andrega Warrior. It's going to give him more drones as well, so it's going to assist the Swarm a little bit, and it's not a bad play. But then I suppose you've already seen Fist Tech, so actually this poison's not going to do anything.
Yeah, down comes the Behemoth here, as that will end up putting some more units on the board, but this drill is looking quite spooky if it comes down soon, as it will be able to kill off a lot of these drones. Then again, Tailbot would love to get a little bit more coins in the bank first, But if he waits too long, though, Pajabol could play an early Yennefer and boost up many of these drones to 4. And if they go to 4, it becomes a little bit difficult for the drill to actually get that much value. So Pajabol kind of figuring out what exactly he's going to do about this lack of swarm situation, as he just doesn't really have much to actually get bodies on the board.
I don't hate an early Yennefer here, especially when you feel like you're missing out on swarm. If you feel like you don't have the swarm available, then actually in this situation, it's not too bad. It's not too bad to play it now.
Yeah, Pajabol now thinking about what he wants to do. Tailbot is at 9 coins now, which means that Tailbot has got a very scary looking drill if Pajabol's not able to boost. So he's going to go for the early Yennefer, going to go all leader charges here, and Yennefer going to come down right now, boosting up most of these tokens out of drill removal range. However, the 3 tokens in the range row still play quite nice in the drill. Tailbot's still going to get a lot of value from that drill before it ends up getting decommissioned, as Pajabol with a pretty big point gap, but is it going to be enough when Tailbot still has so much power left in his hand?
You kind of have to play it now, though. Like, if you're going to play the drill, this is kind of the point, because at Blown Talisman, like, yes, you lose out on a few boosts, but you also protect a lot of things from Tunnel Drill and make that less impactful. But nope, totally out. He's gone for Horsen Senor. He isn't that useful in this situation. He minus 1 point.
Yes, Senor coming down. I mean, it's still 2 Intimidate Angels on the board. These are going to end up growing by 2 points each. So it's not absolutely terrible. But again, this is what we're talking about earlier. This is a tech card against Nilfgaard, and Pajabol not opting to bring Nilfgaard does make this senior not as wonderful, as Pajabol now figuring out if he wants to try get more Swarm on the board, or if he wants to just start playing those payoffs while he still can before the drill comes down. Let's see exactly what he opts to go for here, as Pajabol does have a very big point gap, but is it going to be enough to withstand all this value left in Tailbot's hand?
I mean, you have some options. You still have the Indraga Warrior. You can consume a couple of the back row drones, or just one of them if you wish, and get a little drone there. You've kind of protected one of them, but you've also made another one. But that one is not as big, and it's not maybe likely to get as big. The one thing about this is it does play a little bit into Philippa.
Yep, this is not a bad Philippa for Tailbot. As far as Philippa's go in this matchup, it's not really going to be playing for all that much value, as Pajabol does end up playing. Now we do see down comes the Horsen Jr. Jr. will end up being able to also be a nice spender to kill off some tokens here, as Tailbot just going to play for value for now, not going to use the spend of it just yet, as Pajabol will end up playing location, pulling out a Chimera, going to be boosting more of that front row up right now. Pajabol with a massive point lead at this point. Is Tailbot actually going to have enough to come back from this? He's got a massive drill, but is drill going to be able to do it?
I don't know. Like, he's going to get huge value, like you said, from the drill, but he's not going to squash bugs. That's the issue. Is this? I mean, I guess he can squash the 1 point bugs, for example. If he's got the pocket, so he can squash the 3 point bugs. So he can squash most of the back row. So it does provide decent value to Bone Talisman, but he's going to have more attacks than he has units to kill, basically. So Pajabol is saving a little bit of his value, and he's also waiting, right, with the Triss, because if he sees the drill, he can kill the drill, then play the Triss, and then he's got some backup swarm if Triss hits the right targets.
Yeah, I just actually kind of missed this now, but as you see, I've got very law-friendly board state right now. I've got like father, like son right next to each other, Horsen Senior, Horsen Junior right next to each other. Not very often you get to see that, but both of them are on the board, as now we're going to see Kurt coming down here, applying a bounty and giving even more ammunition to this drill, man. This drill is going to be dirty.
And there's nothing Pajabol can do about that bounty there. That's one of those things. There's not really a lot you can do in that situation. But triggering the Dolder Look plus the Bone Talisman there for a massive point swing, 78 to 35. Like, yes, the drill is going to go brrr, 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 brrr. I can't make a drill noise. That's the best I can do. But I don't know, man. That's a lot of bugs.
You know, I just want to point out, I wonder what would happen if Pajabol held this Andrega Warrior. He could have maybe eaten that bounty and made Tailbot over profit by quite a bit. The question is, how would the sequencing have changed for Tailbot? Maybe Tailbot would have held onto the bounty a little while longer in case Pajabol had that Andrega Warrior. It could have been interesting, as we do see down will come the drill. Here we go. get your peepo drills ready, as it is time to start drilling these bugs. And Tailbot here going to spend out all his coins, but is it going to be enough to make up for this massive point gap that Pajabol has?
Yeah, so far he's not squashed any bugs. So far he's done a lot of damage, not squashed any bugs, and not killed the Chimera?
Yeah, it looks like for now, Tailbot, I guess, going to be hoping Pajabol doesn't have a Parasite answer, because he doesn't actually have many ways to deal with Chimera. Otherwise, I mean, it's interesting. He didn't. I mean, I guess Tailbot's saying that he needs this drill to stick if he wants to win this game. I'm not sure, as he does have a way to kill it next turn, but that's assuming this Parasite doesn't just come down and kill it, which I do expect it will.
Yeah, I feel like in this situation, you just play the Parasite, right? You kill the Tunnel Drill. This is very confusing. Like, bloody good fun. You know, you'd get some profit. You can deal some damage. He can't kill it, though, with Horse and Junior, right? It needs to be a 3. He can't do 7 points of damage with his current hand. I don't know. Maybe if he gets lucky with the cut up Lackey.
Yeah,
even
I'm
then,
not sure.
That's only like 6.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of weird. I mean, maybe Tailbot's trying to play to his odds. Maybe he's saying that he's in a bad spot and he needs to just try, hope to high roll. Maybe he wants to cut up, like as you mentioned, to ping the 10 to a 9 to make it more efficient. But at the same time, not looking good for Tailbot. 28 points down. Pajabol still has another Talisman and a Parasite. Pajabol not opting to take the Parasite on the drill there is kind of weird. Not sure why Pajabol not respecting that drill for now. A little bit unusual.
So he would need, what, 4 drill pings? So 8 coins? You know, how does Tailbot get 8 coins? He's got 1.
I guess he can get. Yeah, he can't actually. He can only get to
can't.
7.
So he doesn't need to respect the drill, because the drill can't kill the. It can't kill the.
Wait, can he? If he gets to 7, he can spend twice. It goes to it goes to 4. He can't kill it with the thingy. So yeah, there's no way for Tailbot. I mean, I guess though he can drill it and then he can finish off with a bloody good fun perhaps. So there's still that potentially.
Yeah, but if he starts to hit it, that takes 2 turns, so Pajabol can just Parasite it.
So we're gonna see the bloody good fun come down now, and then maybe next turn. I mean, at this point, the Pajabol surely just takes the Parasite. Yeah. There it is. Finally, takes the Parasite. Not sure what it took so long for this, but Parasite will come down, and I think that will end up being the last hope for Tailbot in this round, at least on this game, as Pajabol's
it's all over. Well, I mean, this game's over. With a sexy 17-point Bone Talisman. Pajabol managing to perfectly swarm the board if you exclude the location, but you got to play that anyway. And Toblia, this is an unfavored matchup, right? This is not a surprising outcome. Pajabol, he needs to. What,
yeah, I guess he would have overswarmed. I guess that's why Pajabol couldn't be the Parasite there, because he would have overswarmed. I guess there was not enough space open for the Parasite, so I guess that's why Pajabol had to wait to turn the Parasite. Then again, at that point though, doesn't Pajabol just win anyway? Even if his only problem is overswarming, I think he just wins. But anyway, looks like Pajabol will end up finally getting one on the board, starting the first step of the reverse sweep. The problem is, Jaggers, what is going to happen if it comes down to Nature's Gift versus Syndicate?
He's going to pyro.
Oh God, Jaggers. I think it's time for you to go get another beer.
And in Scotland, some people eat pies on a roll. Like they get a pie and they put it on like a savory pie, like a meat pie, and they put it on a roll, and they eat that. If that's the thing, you wonder why we have obesity issues in this country.
What about the haggis?
Haggis is delicious. I highly recommend it.
Isn't it like guts of like stuff?
Yeah, but like it doesn't look like guts of stuff. Like this is the thing, why is it okay to eat like the muscles of animals but not the guts? Why is that an issue for you?
I don't know, because guts look wormy and stuff.
You can get vegetarian haggis, it's pretty good too, and that has no guts in it.
All right, so I mean, Pajabol has a good chance if he goes Nature's Gift. Not Nature's Gift. If he goes his, what has he got? He's got what was that the one he has left? So Pajabol still has. He has Syndicate left, I think.
Yeah, because it's
got his Syndicate. Yeah, he has Syndicate left, and his Syndicate doesn't have this awkward horse and senior. So Pajabol has a decent shot with the Syndicate, but again, Nature's Gift versus Syndicate, that is not going to be easy at all. Let's see what happens in game number. I believe we're going into game number 3 here as Pajabol game number 4 rather, as Pajabol going to tie it all up and force a game 5 potentially. We did see, though, Pajabol was up against Bard with Nature's Gift against Syndicate, and I believe Pajabol did actually end up winning that one, surprisingly. So it has happened before. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but it's certainly not an easy feat to accomplish.
So let's have a look at Tailbot's mulligans. Can he improve his Sag crackers? And the answer is no, the saddest of crackers. That's a 5-point safe cracker.
Once again, these safe crackers, how are they so bad today? Once again, we're going to see another Sag cracker. Looks like Tailbot has one mulligan left, though, and finds the Gourd. Ooh, Gourd, not really a card you want in your opening hand. So once again, and this is actually very dangerous, because if Pajabol has a strong hand, Pajabol could really put out some tempo. Unfortunately for Pajabol, no Neuromancy, no Furco, no Justice. He will not be able to quite mount the red coin abuse that he would potentially be able to do here if he had one of those cards.
Yeah, he kind of has the opposite problem in that his halfling is hench. He has been working out during lockdown, and he's a thick 9-point safecracker. It turns out not all safecrackers are made equally in god size.
Man, halfling versus fulling, it seems, as that safecracker is going to be the bigger brother in this situation. So looking at Tailbot's sideboard, from his perspective, he's got to be feeling really scared about this, going, oh boy, if Justice comes out soon, I'm going to lose on even. So Tailbot really has to respect this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Justice come out here. Even though he's on blue coin, this looks very threatening if you're Tailbot.
Looks like Tailbot recognizing the threat. Nova Gradient Justice into another minuscule, tiny, minute, pitiful, pathetic, improper, terrible, garbage, shocking, horrendous.
Are you on? Do you have like a thesaurus open next to you or something?
I'm thesaurus. That's a dinosaur.
That's not a dinosaur. It's not a dinosaur, yeah. Jagger. It's not a dinosaur.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely a dinosaur. That's a joke. I was going for like a Jaggerus, thesaurus kind of thing, but I just sound like a dinosaur at this point. But like 2 stubby little arms.
Oh boy, let's see what ends up happening here as Tailbot now investing the Justice. Pajabol having the big safecracker on the board, looking so menacing against Tailbot, as Pajabol unfortunately really wishing he could have just a Justice or a Furco in hand to, send this one home with the tempo abuse. But unfortunately for him, looks like Tailbot is going to have himself a decent lead, and it is going to be difficult for Pajabol to actually win this round under this board state.
Yeah, there's no justice in the world for Pajabol, unfortunately. I think, though, Tailbot's getting to the point where he doesn't really want to play much more, right? You get to that stage where you're like, I don't really want to play any cards. Like, the problem, though, for Pajabol is if he goes a few cards down to win the round, then he can't really... Well, he loses first say, right? If you dry past, you go into round 3. Tailbot has first say, and first say is quite important in the mirror because you can set up your engines first. You can set up your intimidate cards first.
Yep, first say definitely quite valuable in this mirror, and so much so that sometimes players do opt to actually bleed in the mirror, but it's such a difficult one because, I mean, bleeding in a mirror, especially one like this, although you do get first say, you have 1 card less than your opponent, and it's pretty hard to actually 2-0. If your opponent has a half-functional hand, it can go very, very wrong, but again, the first say is so beneficial. As we see Pajabol now going to use the Assault to kill off that safecracker, and for now, just try build up on his coins. Will Tailbot take the early pass, trying to get that first say in round 3? Or does Tailbot want to actually try win this round 1?
The thing is, Tailbot, I don't know. I kind of feel like he's happy to take a pass. He's got a stacked hand. He knows that going into round 3, he's going to have a pretty decent hand and first say. Whereas the longer he goes into this, Pajabol can kind of just play trash, right? Pajabol can play trash and then go into round 3 with a really stacked hand because he's played all his bad cards in round 1.
Yeah, I mean, Tailbot does get himself to Horde 9 now, getting that boat out. Pajabol doing the same thing, also wanting to get his boat out, saying anything you can do, I can do better. As Pajabol is still trailing behind by a couple of points here, 8-point gap in favor of Tailbot. So, I mean, if Pajabol does get into round 3 without first say, he does have a Justice, which Tailbot will no longer have. So the advantage that Tailbot could have is first say, but Pajabol having the Justice could be big. And also this Horse Insignia, not going to be an amazing card in this mirror either. So especially with Furco being committed in round 1, it's not going to have many good targets to transform later on.
Yeah, and this is where Pajabol his better deck may shine because he hasn't committed Justice. Tolbliat was worried that Pajabol was going to commit Justice, win on even, and then make him sad in round 3. But as it is, Pajabol didn't have it. So Tolbliat's committed a card that's one of his more useful pieces. And when you consider things like Horson Senior versus Pajabol's variant of the deck, Horson Senior just doesn't work in the mirror.
Yeah, and Pajabol gonna have a little bit less coin carryover than Tailbot now, as he does gear up for round 2. Now, I'm curious to see what Pajabol does here, if he ends up taking this bleed or not. I believe against Pajabol versus Gravesh in one of the games from day 1, I believe there was a Syndicate Mirror, and one of them two did actually end up bleeding each other, I believe. So Pajabol actually does play with the Security, the card that we actually haven't seen a whole lot of today, or in this tournament actually, but an interesting card nonetheless. It has Intimidate too, and it can also be immune. So it can be a very annoying card in the mirror, as you just can't deal with it. Like you can't touch it. If it comes down with immunity, you look at this card and you go, well, that's just a bunch of points that I can't touch, which can be very, very annoying with such a reactive deck such as this.
So if you're Pajabol and you're going to go for the bleed, I think you have to commit. Well, he's going for the bleed, right? You're playing Security. You're not playing that and then passing. I think if you're going to go for the bleed, you have to commit Justice, because at the end of the day, Tolbliat's played his. So if you play yours, you're just putting the footing down on evil. If you set up Security here, what that does is it means that when you play your Justice, when you play those crime cards, you're getting extra value from them. So setting this up means he can play out some of his crime cards. It's going to go relatively tall. The one thing you have to be a little bit scared of is getting yoinked, right? And at the moment, if Tolbliat yoinks it, he's played Philippa, and Pajabol's traded to Secure for Philippa. He's probably pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important to note that I think this asks a lot of questions with Tailbot. If Tailbot wants to answer this right now, he has to play bloody good fun, which means he loses out on all his carryover. And then Pajabol can maybe think about going, okay, it's fine, I'm going to pass. You lost your carryover, fine. Or Pajabol could, of course, now play the Justice and try to say, well, you remember that Justice you spent in round number 1? I still have my Justice, and I'm going to use this Justice to try force out your Cleaver, and then I'm going to have Cleaver for round 3, and you're not. So I think Pajabol just using this extra resource that he has, that he's saved from round 1 to his advantage here, and trying to mount maybe a little bit of a soft bleed and ask Tailbot, put him through the questions here and see what he wants to do about it.
Yeah, so now the Furco coming out into the Novigradian Justice. You've got your Crown Splitters. You're going to get your Dwarf Bros. You're going to make a nice little pocket. And the Safecracker. And I feel like this Safecracker still going to be better than every Safecracker that Tolbliat played in round 1, looking at the crime situation. That is a 6-point Safecracker. So still better than what Tolbliat had. And it gets him some tempo. Skewertooth's back up at 5. 18 points to 0. So now even if you play, say, the Yoink, you take the 5, that's not enough.
So let's take a look now and see what Tailbot's going to do, as that is 18 to 0, starting to look a little bit scary if you're Tailbot here. 2 Intimidate engines on the board, and that is looking a little bit dicey. So what exactly is Tailbot going to do? Could play maybe something like the Junior here, kill off that Safecracker, perhaps, but again, even that is not going to quite threaten all that much against Pajabol just yet. So what is Tailbot going to say about this?
He's got to play something that's a bit tempo. He can't really play slow here. And yeah, he's identifying the same thing you just said, that he can't afford to play slow, so he needs to play the Wholesome Junior there, clear up the Intimidate engine, and also deal, 11 points overall?
Yeah, I mean, this, I don't know, Jack. What do you think about Tailbot's position? Do you think he's going to have to invest his Cleaver at this point soon, or do you think he needs to? If he invests his Cleaver, what happens to the drill in round 3?
Yeah, it makes the pocket really awkward. And when you don't have the pocket, and your opponent does, they get so much more value out of their drill. Like they're just the superior driller. The thing is, though, Pajabol, he needs to be, a little bit cautious. He needs to worry about losing his card. That is something that could potentially happen, because Tolbliat does have a lot of money in the bank. That's the thing you have to remember here, is he's got a lot of money in the bank. He's got a 17-point play with Philippa onto the Secure, for example. And if he steals that engine, then all of his crime cards suddenly become much more powerful.
Yeah, that Philippa is definitely something you have to keep in mind of. With 8 coins in the bank, it threatens quite a bit. So Pajabol has to keep in mind the Philippa threat as Tailbot now thinking about it. He does take the Philippa here. Pajabol, of course, can counter commit his own Philippa. He's got his own Philippa available to him, saying, well, anything you can do, once again, I can do better.
You have to Philippa back here. Like, if you leave Saskatooth on your opponent's side of the board, he's just going to get bigger and bigger. It makes his crimes out-tempo your crimes, and it means that your opponent can like counter your bleed. Because every time they play a crime, they're going to do better. And ultimately, your opponent's already played Philippa, right? So it's not like you're losing out on much by playing it in return.
All right, let's take a look now and see what ends up happening for Tailbot as he does invest quite a big card. Philippa is pretty big in this mirror as Pajabol has the option of playing Philippa back right now. Is he going to take it or not? The one thing that's a little bit annoying about this Philippa, though, is Pajabol comes out on the downside. He gets the short end of the stick in this Philippa exchange because now the positioning of the Saskatooth changes a little bit, which makes the drill potentially a bit worse because if that Furco dies, then there's no Crown Splitter pocket for the drill. So although the Philippa exchange does end up trading evenly for these two, Tailbot does get the slight upper hand with this trade.
The thing is, though, dip is so low tempo. You know, if you're going to kill the Crown Splitter pocket, like, does Pajabol even care? Does he not just pass in that situation?
Yeah, it is something you have to be careful about. But, I mean, I guess at the point you just do the math on your reach and then figure out how much you can threaten here as Tailbot. I mean, he's only behind by 12 points, to be fair. It's not that many points that he's down by, so he could make it up as Tailbot now thinking about exactly what he wants to spend. Looking at Pajabol's hand, though, his only spender left is the drill, so if his Crown Splitters do end up getting answered, it can make it very difficult for Pajabol to keep going here, as Tailbot now going to spend the shakedown and for now threaten some reach on maybe something like a dip in the Pontar and maybe some spending on the senior there, or junior rather.
Yeah, Pajabol's biggest fear in this situation is draws. Right? If you look at the deck, there's a lot to find. And with 3 draws and 2 mulligans, you can find a lot of it. You know, there's an Neuromancy, there's Kurt, there's Gord, there's Jacques, there's Cleaver. Like, he wants to find that. I think Cleaver, a key piece if he's holding this drill for round 3, because it allows you to recreate more pockets. And who doesn't love pockets? The answer is the people who design women's clothing.
And this piggy now getting even bigger. 9 points. I believe it took some damage too earlier, so I think this is actually a bit bigger than that. It's actually a pretty big piggy as it is keeping the pressure going. For now, Tailbot falling behind every turn that is played as he needs to start thinking he really doesn't want to spend this Cleaver. That's what Pajabol's trying to get out. Pajabol's saying, come on, play the Cleaver. Play it. You know you want to play it. I want you to play it. You know you want to. As Tailbot just want to hold on to that, because if he plays Cleaver here, that drill going to be so much worse in round 3.
Yeah, I think like Pajabol's executing this bleed really nicely. He just has to find the right moment to stop. That's, I guess, the fear is find the right moment to stop, because he's not got a spend here. That's the thing that you need to kind of be aware of. He doesn't really have a spend, and that's quite scary. Tailbot, though, kind of starting to recognize that I need to do something. I need to close this gap. Going for the heat wave onto the Saskatooth, 9 points, and closing that gap right up to 13-6.
Yeah, now we see Pajabol also having a bit of awkward time with the spending. Both players here not really have great ways to spend their coins, as Pajabol needing to invest the drill to spend his coins, but then again, there isn't much to interact with, so nothing really to, drill, so to speak, as Pajabol now plays dip in the Pontar, getting himself some more coins again. Both players here just play a little bit of a tug of war, not wanting to commit a whole lot. Pajabol poking at Tailbot, asking him to try play that Cleaver, whereas Tailbot just once again poking right back and just saying, nope, I don't want to do it, not yet. I want to hold on to my Cleaver. And at some point or another, I think Tailbot can be forced to play it. Let's see exactly at what point that is going to be, however.
The thing is, if Tailbot plays the Cleaver, does he close the gap, right? That's what you have to consider. Can Tailbot get ahead? Because
yes. If he plays Cleaver.
Yeah, Paja's problem is if he does that, he plays Cleaver and then Pajabol's down a card. Is it worth it to be down a card but up the Cleaver?
If Tailbot plays Cleaver and gets ahead, then Pajabol has suddenly got very good targets for him to drill. He can just go ham with the drill after that. So I don't know if that's going to be great for Tailbot if he plays Cleaver here. He does play the Cleaver. This is a big card. This is the moment that Pajabol is waiting for. Now the question is is Pajabol going to say, okay, got the cleaver out, your drill's garbage, I'm going to go card down, whatever? Or is Pajabol going to fight for this good time to play drill potentially? There are some nice targets to hit, but again, Tailbot can also just play his own drill. So exactly what is Pajabol going to choose? This could actually be the game-deciding decision here.
Are there nice targets to hit, though?
I mean, you can take out Cleaver, you can hit Philippa, and I mean, I'm not sure if you have enough coins left to kill off one. But if you can also kill one of these muscles, you also deny Tailbot from getting full value in his own drill. So we'll have to see if you can actually, how much damage you can actually do. But it's not terrible.
It's expensive, though. Like, because you have to spend to remove a shield, I guess.
Ooh. And Pajabol taking the pass, saying, you know what? Cleaver and Heatwave is worth me going a card down, as Pajabol will preserve his clear for round 3, and that makes Tailbot's drill not looking too hot.
Pajabol needs to find Cleaver, though. That's the challenge. And there's Gord, there's a Neuromancy, there's Jacques, there's the top decks of the god. Pajabol once again throwing the Spiro Gwent strategy right straight out of the window and saying, I know how to draw my cards.
I mean, he hasn't completely thrown my strategy guy out the window just yet. He did go 2 cards down, and he's going for the reverse sweep. So it's not out of the window just yet. We might see the reverse sweep coming down soon. Tailbot here, mulliganing away the drill, saying not even good enough to keep anymore, as he just has no more crown splitters other than the Gord for this round 3. Looking actually not bad for Pajabol, despite being a card down. He got what he wanted and is going to accept being a card down in exchange for it.
Tavern Brawl, though, is really nice against Cleaver. Wholesome Senior. He has no friends.
Yeah,
he's a wholesome 6 for what is 8. His, I think it's 6 for 8. Good value there.
Yeah, I mean, he's still an Intimidate engine, so he will get at least 2 boosts, so he might actually end up being an 8 for 8. But yeah, I agree. Definitely not exactly. And this is the thing. This card is built for Nilfgaard, and outside of Nilfgaard, not really all that good.
Like how Quill's just telling me off and telling me his name is Motherfucker Senior. No, he's Wholesome Senior.
I mean, if that's actually when you look at the Gwent translate.
Isn't that a movie quote?
I have no idea, but if you look at the translation from Polish to English, that's apparently what he gets translated to in the deck builder.
I want to say there's a movie with a character called Motherfucker Jones. Oh, it's bad bosses.
You guys watch some weird movies.
It's Horrible Bosses, Motherfucker Jones. That's what I'm thinking of. Which is a decent movie. That's not a horrible movie, even if it has horrible in the title.
I can't remember that reference, even though I've watched the movie. But yeah, it looks like Tailbot now going to play the poison here. And there isn't another poison, I believe. So Pajabol shouldn't... Actually, no, there is one. There is more poison. So this actually could threaten something from Pajabol. But does Pajabol have anything he can do about it? He does have the curtain deck, but there's no way Pajabol expends the Kurt and sacrifices the Cleaver. That just never happens. I don't think Pajabol ever cares. I mean, he might be hesitant to spend with this Jacques now, but there's no way Pajabol cares enough to purify it.
The thing he has to be aware of, though, is the Tavern Brawl is going to disrupt his strategy a little bit. But actually, how many times can he afford to spend with Cleaver? Because if he can get enough Cleaver bros, then the Tavern Brawl doesn't really matter, right? Muscles, not Cleaver bros.
The Tavern Brawl, though, I mean, still plays for really good value, killing off that Cleaver efficiently. And we see, I like this positioning from Pajabol here, positioning it this way, playing the Jacques first, and then the Cleaver, doing this to play around the Tavern Brawl, knowing that Tavern Brawl is in Tailbot's list, and this does separate the Cleaver from the shielded units, which makes this Tavern Brawl so much worse for Tailbot, unless Tailbot can kill that Footman, which I don't think he can. This Tavern Brawl actually going to be very, very bad for Tailbot in this matchup after Pajabol plays around it.
Yeah, that Cleaver, so hot right now. Oh, I'm into it. I'm not actually into dwarfs. That's Spiro, in case you were wondering. Yeah, he's just basically completely denied the pocket, and he has got so much money coming his way. And, you know, when you see the dip in the Pontot on the Jacques, you know the poison isn't coming, right? When that happens, you're like, well, this is my only target that doesn't have armor, so there's no follow-up poison, so now you also feel safe to spend there. Siggy 8. I've heard some debate about Siggy 8. Siggy 8's here. Click once, get the 9 coins, and Pajabol's just chilling. He's got 31 points.
For those of you who don't know why Siggy 8 sometimes happens, and this was something that a lot of us in TLG were trying to figure out when it came to the last qualifier, is how do you get Siggy in without destroying the deck? Because what often tends to happen is to get Siggy 9, you end up having to make these weird sacrifices for the deck that ends up making you either have not enough crime cards in the deck where you have 14 units rather than 13. And it's very, very awkward to try get in. So I think with these tech choices, Pajabol just saying, screw the Siggy 9, I'm just going to go for Siggy 8. And here comes the drill. That is going to be a very strong spender, where Tailbot will unfortunately not have a drill of his own as he opts to mulligan it away with not any crown splitters. So Pajabol here proving that you don't always need card advantage to win a game of Gwent, and instead going for more hand quality rather than hand quantity.
Remember when that was a 23-point Jackal? This is the thing. Like, Pajabol is a card down in this match, and he's ended up like 15
11
points up or something like that.
No, 11
close enough. 11 points up at a card down. That's BM.
I mean, I think that goes to show how important Cleaver is in this matchup sometimes. Like, if you can get that Cleaver out, Drill becomes so much worse. And I really like that bleed from Pajabol in the end. Just going in round 2 until he saw that Cleaver and then saying, you know what? Fine. I'm out. I'll go card down. I got the Cleaver out. That's all I needed. Bye-bye. Going into round 3 now.
It was not close.
Good luck.
Do you want to see my dinosaur impression?
Oh, boy. And do a T-Rex.
That's what you missed, Chad. Like, I feel like it's really weird not being on caster cam because I'm quite an emotive person when I'm casting, and I feel like you miss all these things. Like, sometimes I'll look at the camera and try to make a point, and then realize no one can see me. Well, you can see me.
I kind of. Oh, I'm looking at. Never mind. I couldn't see. I was waiting for a visual, but never mind. Chat could probably see you, so I'm sure they appreciate it. As we're about to get into the final game, game number 5. But we keep speaking about this game. Nature's Gift versus Syndicate. What are Pajabol's chances in this matchup?
Some. There is a chance. You're saying there's a chance. That's a movie quote as well. I need to actually know my movies. I keep quoting them and not know what they're from. It depends on the draws. It depends on the place. It's an uphill battle, right? But Pajabol has given us a series, and we have cast. This is our 4th best of 5 at this point. We actually got a draw as well, so. Every single game that we have cast has gone to 5 games. Final game, Scoia'tael versus Syndicate. Syndicate, arguably the best deck in the meta.
Yeah, I mean, Syndicate, one of the strongest decks, and Nature's Gift, Pajabol going to have his work cut out for him. Not an easy matchup at all. He's done a good job at recovering from that 0-2 deficit, but now he's going to go up against the mighty Syndicate in a matchup which Syndicate really just so happy to see as Tailbot here. It is going to be difficult. Pajabol did win this matchup against Bart earlier, and this is the same list. Tailbot and Bart playing the same list, so Pajabol has done it once before. But can he do it again where it matters the most in the grand final of this Gwent Open? If Pajabol wins here, it will mean that he will have 3 consecutive official Gwent tournaments won in a row if he can win this. If not, unfortunately, the streak may end. We'll have to see if Pajabol can keep the streak alive or not.
It is worth noting that I think in terms of track record, at least in tournaments, Tailbot is the more experienced player compared to Bart. So while Pajabol has beat this list before, that doesn't mean he's going to do it again. Pajabol, though, with this Pavco opener, I like it because Tailbot hasn't been able to develop his bank, which makes removal a little bit awkward. And usually in this situation, the Syndicate player likes to play some safecrackers. They're not really going to do anything too interactive. So you can start to see some value from the Pavco.
Yeah, Pavco in round number 1 does seem to be a little bit annoying for Tailbot to deal with, as he does actually opt not to play the safecracker. Just going to go for the dip in the Pontoff for now. And opting rather not to get those crown splitters on the board. Interestingly enough, usually you typically see down will come the safecracker, and then you'll start to play the crime cards. But Tailbot opting rather to just try deal with Mr. Burrs himself first. I think maybe Tailbot just wasn't happy with the leaks. Maybe Tailbot just unhappy with what he saw in the dev stream, saying, you know what, Burrs, I'm going to take a dip at you. Those leaks were just not what I wanted.
Yeah. Get in the Pontar. How dare you? But what this does is it puts money in the bank as well, which means that if Pajabol opts to try and protect the Pavco, Tailbot then has money to spend to try and deal with it in different ways. Also, he's kind of encouraging Pajabol to boost it, and in doing that, it makes it a nicer target for things like the Fist Tech. Tailbot just has to be a bit careful with his profit and stuff. It also means that Pavco's charge is wasted for 1 turn.
Man, this is a big commitment from Pajabol, committing both Pavko and the Figus in round number 1. Pajabol really committing to this, saying he values round control quite highly, not willing to give it up easily to Tailbot. And now, what exactly is Tailbot going to do about this defender? He doesn't really have great options just yet. He could play a Neuromancy for Kurt, perhaps, but he may end up having to sacrifice other more important cards if he does so. Doesn't have a complete poison package in his hand either. So there really isn't all that much that Tailbot can do right now to deal with this Figus.
Yeah, and you don't want to be playing crimes without your Intimidate engines. That's the thing. So that dip in the Pontar, like, yes, it kind of threatened Pavko, but it's also denying value from your Intimidate engines, and that's kind of a pain in the butt.
And down will come that safe cracker. Going to come down at 7. That's probably the biggest safe crack I've seen all series today. As for some reason, these safe crackers... Pajabol at a 9, I guess. I'm talking about Tailbot's perspective. Tailbot's been having some very small safe crackers, as this will end up getting rebuked. And this Pavko giving Pajabol so much control over the board right now, as
you can't Tavern Brawl Figus, right? Because you can't click on another target. You can only click on him. Just so that I know how these things work. Clarifying mechanics, so you don't have to. So finally, Fist Tech coming out onto the defender. It's not really something you want to purify, because if you purify it, you're removing the defender tag, right? So it's one of those situations. Tailbot, though, if he wanted to do the follow-up poison, he'd need to commit a Neuromancy to do it, which is quite big.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be... this is going to basically mean Pajabol going to play the Veil there and basically say, nope, you are not going to through that Figus. I mean, I guess the Philippa would be able to get through that, but I guess Pajabol's saying, well, if you want to invest the Philippa now, then go for it, I guess, as Tailbot thinking about what he wants to do about this. Is he going to pass round 1? That is a little bit of a commitment Pajabol had to make this round, but at the same time, he gets some round control, and I think Pajabol is going to desperately need that round control if he wants to have a chance in this matchup.
And I quite like the Figus in round 1, because also if you're worried about your opponent stealing it, then this is the round to play it. Because if your opponent steals the defender and then you don't get through it, it means that they can kind of make their little pockets, they can do tunnel drill things, and you can't do anything about it. And tunnel drill is one of those cards you kind of need to do something about.
Yep, seems like Tailbot's had enough. He's going to take the pass here. We're going to go into round number 2. That means there's only 2 more rounds left of this game to decide who is going to be crowned Gwent Open number 1 champion. It is almost time, unless there's a tie, which I really hope not. I don't know if my nerves can handle a tiebreaker, as we're going to go into this next round here. Pajabol likely going to be bleeding. Don't want to be going into long round 3 when the Syndicate player... I mean, Tailbot really committed nothing into this round 1. He didn't even commit a single... he didn't commit justice or anything. So there is a lot of value still left in Tailbot's deck. So Pajabol has his work cut out for him.
I'm stuck on the analysis that as we go into round 2, it means there's only 2 rounds left. Yes, sure, that is what that means. I mean, you said a lot of other useful stuff as well, but sometimes these things just... They make me laugh. So how do you bleed here?
I'm pointing out how close we are to the end. We're really, really close here. How do you bleed here? Well, I mean, apparently Hamadryad will be the first step of the puzzle, as Pajabol not opting to use any leader charge on it, I guess. Doesn't want to play more into Bloody Good Fun, as Tailbot now doesn't actually play the Paydays. And this would have been a great time to play Payday if he had it, but unfortunately, as Tailbot opting not to play Paydays here, he has to spend Bloody Good Fun if he wants to deal with this efficiently.
So Tailbot just deciding... I've just gotten used to calling him Tailbot at this point. I'm just like, okay, if that's what you want to be called, Damien, then by all means, we'll go for it. So he has to decide what he wants to do about this. The thing is, the gun hasn't been shot on the bleed, so you kind of don't want to jump the gun, right? Once Pajabol gets past 7 cards, that's when you know the pedal is to the metal. At this stage, Pajabol hasn't actually spent anything that suggests he's going for a bleed, so you don't want to react in kind. But what Tailbot has done here is he's spent on the Sea Jackal, and that tells Pajabol that his hand is stacked, because it shows that Tailbot wants to be able to pass if Pajabol passes without paying any more cards.
Yep, for sure. I think Pajabol once again going to try to do this little strategy of getting out the Cleaver in round 2, maybe going a card down in exchange for Cleaver, but then again, Tailbot this time still has justice, so even if you're able to get out the Cleaver, and we see a big commitment here coming up from Pajabol with that Ethne, he's going for it, going for the aggressive line, Because if Pajabol's not able to get enough Crown Splitters out from Tailbot, then this drill is going to be so devastating in round 3. But if Pajabol can get out the Justice, if he can get out the Cleaver, then suddenly drill not looking so threatening for that round 3 potentially.
It's not a bad Tavern Brawl there between the Ethne and the Hamadryad, right?
Yeah, not too bad. Nothing insane either, but as far as Tavern Brawl value goes, it might be one of the better ones you may see. Then again, if this Hamadryad does get boosted up more, you could actually get more value in Tavern Brawl, so maybe Tailbot wants to wait. But then again, it gives Pajabol some chance to react and possibly block it with maybe something like a Valve instead.
So Tailbot opting for the Aneromancy onto the Cleaver. So Pajabol getting the Cleaver out before he even needs to go down a card. But with that said, he committed Ethne to do it, right?
Yeah, he's committed a lot to do this already. So at this point, I'm not sure if Pajabol wants to pass yet. The difference is this time around is that last time Tailbot didn't actually have just round 3, he spent in round 1. So getting the Cleaver out was pretty big. But this time around, Tailbot still has the Justice, so he can get that Crown Splitter pocket in round 3. So I don't think Pajabol able to pass just yet until he can at least see that Justice come out.
His hand is kind of hot shit though.
I mean, these bronze cards actually play for a lot of points with all this symbiosis, honestly. I mean, if you look at the worst card here being the Tempering, it's already playing for 6+3, so it's actually going to play for 9 points. Not too bad for a 4 provision card. So these bronzes actually right now are still actually pretty damn good.
That's fair. I just feel like the board state though, like told that he does have removal options. So as soon as he starts pinging these off, Pajabol's bleed potential gets lower and lower and lower. So you have to find the balance, right? You have to find the point where you hit the mark, right? Where if Tollblatt has removed, say, 2 of your symbiosis units, is it still worth continuing to invest these bronze cards? And that's a really fine line to draw. And Tunnel Drill, nice and early from Tollblatt with just 1 friendo, dealing 2 damage, killing 1 symbiosis unit, killing another symbiosis unit. And this is what I was talking about. Suddenly those cards not as spicy. Giving Pajabol a pass, however.
Unless he opts to spend more here, this does not in fact give Pajabol a pass as he spends 1 more time with help of the leader charge here, getting exactly 1 ahead. Pajabol, though, will just take the rebuke right away. Nothing to really think about there. Does it instantly. And again, Drill is out now. The Cleaver is out, but there's still a Philippa, and Philippa's also a big threat because you can use that Philippa to steal Gezrus. So I don't know. Pajabol does get the Justice out now as well, but he will possibly go a card down to do so, and there's still a Philippa and a card deficit to go up against in round number 3.
Tollblatt's problem, though, in this situation is his hand is stacked. Right, that's the big issue here for him, is that if Pajabol's like, well, I'm down a card, so I may as well play bad cards, he can.
It seems like we are going to get the council coming out here on to that Hamadryad. Pajabol not willing to pass just yet, wants to fight for it seems, as we see that Hamadryad will get boosted up. Putting Pajabol up now, I believe that is going to be 11-point gap off the Vitalities accounts for in favor of Pajabol. Tailbot going to have to invest something if he wants to get ahead again. Tavern Brawl right now not looking all that great. Philippa, no coins available for it. Heatwave not looking too bad, but not quite enough on its own. Tailbot actually may have to spend the junior here if he wants to keep ahead once again.
The thing is for Tollblatt is that the gap there is pretty substantial. If he wants to keep the Heatwave if he can for last say, he wants to keep the Philippa for round 3 if he can. And so you kind of need to accept that you're not going to necessarily close the gap. But then now he makes a choice, right? Does he spend? Does he click? Ooh. Does he get ahead that way? Or does he give Pajabol an out? Now he can take it with Tavern Brawl.
Pajabol a pass. The question is Pajabol going to take it? He says no. He will keep on going, it seems, and trying to widen the gap, but it's going to be so hard to bleed here when Tailbot has 2 Intimidate engines on the board, one of them having Intimidate 2 right now, still having Heatwave, still having Tavern Brawl, still having Philippa, so many massive cards in Tailbot's hand. Pajabol desperately trying to get whatever he can out from Tailbot while still maintaining card advantage. Not going to be easy at all to do, but at the same time, again, there's still so much left that Pajabol has to worry about for round 3 if he's not able to get it out in round 2 here.
The Intimidate engines, though, they aren't massive because Tailbot only has one more crime, right? So Pajabol, he's seen how many crimes are available because of the Safecracker, so he can kind of make a plan on that way. Tailbot, though, opting to spend a little bit, suggests he's looking for some profit, perhaps. Horson Jr. coming out with the 6 points of damage, 33 to 37, plus the 3. Does he spend? Well, he doesn't because the Redanian came out. So this is a pass. This is where you make the choice. Do you think your Dryad's Caress is going to out-tempo Tailbot once again?
Yeah, I mean, Pajabol is definitely treading on some thin ice. He keeps going. Pajabol not taking the pass. Tailbot offering pass after pass to Pajabol, and Pajabol wants none of it. He wants to keep going. He needs to keep going. He says he does not take the passes. Tailbot, I don't know if Tailbot's trying to bait Pajabol and say, go on, pass. See what happens. Pajabol just saying, nope, not passing it. Going to keep going and playing excellently around that Tavern Brawl, which Tailbot's still looking at going, what am I doing with this Tavern Brawl? Because not looking all that incredible right now.
This is genius from Pajabol. Like, how does Tailbot close the gap here? Heatwave does 11. That's not enough. Tavern Brawl doesn't work. Philippa, there's no good targets. Right? Like, in this situation, and Gord isn't really what you want to play in this situation either.
Ooh, and I actually like this from Tailbot. Ooh, Tailbot, they're using the junior to actually open up space to make actually a pretty big Tavern Brawl there. So that junior getting quite sneaky value, opening up and forcing the Tavern Brawl for Tailbot. Quite cheeky, I like it.
Yeah, and that Tailbot managing to find a way to now force value into the Tavern Brawl. And what that means is this gap is completely closed. But Tailbot, he has to spend something good now, right? He doesn't have options. He has to spend Heatwave, he has to spend Gord, or he has to spend Philippa. So Pajabol's kind of saying, well, I'm going down a card, but you're coming down with me kind of thing.
Yeah, Tailbot now is going to have to get ahead, but he's going to do it with a very expensive card at this point. So question is, which of these cards is Tailbot's least valuable card, he says, because he will probably go a card up here. Question is, what exactly does he spend to do so, as Heatwave actually might look to be possibly the worst of the options. But then again, Philippa also, I mean, Philippa should find value later. It takes the Philippa now. That means Gezris will have to be answered by Heatwave later on, presumably, as Tailbot now going to actually try and greed it out a bit. Takes one of the lower Philippa values to try and maintain a bit of coin carry for next round. Pajabol now, should he take the pass here, right?
Yeah, I think you have to. You can't really afford to play Call of Nature. I mean, you get what, Heatwave or Gord out of your opponent, potentially. So maybe you go for Call of Nature into something small. If you have something small, that's the other question, is do you have something small that's going to do enough? I guess poorly. Yeah,
I mean, with some symbiosis value, pretty much anything you call into, I think, will be able to get ahead. But does Pajabol want to try and make... If he plays the Call of Forest here, he has no consistency left for the rest of the game. So Pajabol does get a sense of Tailbot's hand, though. Seeing the Philippa there does tell Pajabol that Tailbot's hand is pretty stacked right now. So
yeah, and the thing is, Tailbot's draws are not hot, right? You've got Kurt, you've got Horson Senior, you've got Furco, and then you've got a bunch of bronze.
Takes the call onto the Forest Protector. Going to go for the maximum tempo play. Is this enough to tempo Pajabol ahead? Enough. He plays double leader charge. Unfortunately, he roped out. Pajabol's expression says it all. He roped out there using 2 leader charges on the Hammer Dryad. Ends up being wasted, and the whole leader charge, that's 2 points that he maybe loses around 3. Does not look happy about it. Tailbot takes the Heatwave here. If Pajabol was able to use the leader charge on something else, at least he would have forced some leader charge out from Tailbot. But unfortunately, that leader ends up being wasted here due to the rope.
And that's a shame. I think that's a shame. You know, you don't like to see it. I don't like to see anyone rope. I just feel like when those situations happen, you got to feel for the person, because it is going to impact him in this situation. He's got Paulie, he's got Shaping Nature, and he's got Circle of Life.
The top decks that Pajabol wanted. I mean, I gotta feel this exact thing happened to me this almost exact thing happened to me in the last qualifier, except for the fact that luckily I was still able to win that game. But unfortunately for Pajabol, this is not looking great. That leader charge there getting wasted. I'm not sure if it's going to actually end up mattering in the end. We'll have to see, but definitely doesn't feel great to waste that leader charge accidentally there in round number 2.
No, I think with these draws especially, it's just a bit sad, right? That's the situation. Is the Herald missed, the Gezras missed, and you've got a Circle of Life. Like, you never want a Circle of Life. So all things considered, Tailbot's at 9 coins. He can spend to his heart's content on this nice Toll Sea Jackal should he wish, and there's not really a whole lot Pajabol can do about it. I think it came down to that Tavern Brawl. I think maybe Paya went a little bit too deep, or if he had found a way to play around that, things could have come out differently. But as it is, Shaping Nature is 8 points on the Poly, little friend, 15 to 25. It doesn't matter that Tailbot had a card advantage.
Yeah, it doesn't actually end up mattering here. It's a very big point. I mean, it's a difficult matchup. It's a really difficult matchup, but it looks like Tailbot will come out on top, does end up winning a Gwent Open number 1. He was the first one to qualify. He was also the first one to win, as he will come off on top in the early stages of the tournament, getting himself the first spot at Gwent Masters number 3, which will presumably happen towards the end of this year. So congratulations to Tailbot beating Pajabol and ending Pajabol's streak. So big congratulations there.
Yeah, I feel like Tailbot, whatever you want to call him, he played that really cleanly. Pajabol with the reverse sweep, the odds were always going to be against him. He had a couple great matches with his Syndicate list into with his Araka Swarm against Syndicate, and with his Syndicate against Syndicate. It just came down to a few things. I think the play into the Tavern Brawl, for example, I think his sequencing as well. Tailbot in the first 2 games was he kind of found the matchups that he wanted. And I think that's probably the most emotion I've seen out of Tailbot with his little fist bump there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough one. It was a tough one for Tailbot to beat. I mean, definitely not an easy opponent at all, but Tailbot did end up coming on top. And I think this all goes back to that. I think the crucial point for this series was that matchup against Nilfgaard for Pajabol, Araka Swarm versus Nilfgaard. If Pajabol was able to win that match with Araka Swarm, he could have preserved that Nilfgaard from Tailbot to get that matchup for his Nature's Gift. Because once Tailbot won with that Nilfgaard, that's where the turning point, I think, actually happened a lot earlier in the series. But letting that Nilfgaard through end up, I think, being what ultimately cost Pajabol.
Yeah, and I should have stuck with Team Glasses, because Glasses, clearly they make you better at Gwent. You heard it here first. I've been saying it at the start. I've been saying it all weekend. I went for Pajabol, Team TLG, and I should have trusted in the faith of the Glasses, which is a shame.